Zero Foxtrot does not profess to share or promote the opinions and beliefs expressed by show host or guests. The Stay Zero podcast was created to provide a platform for servicemen and women to share their stories. Due to the nature of this podcast, sensitive topics will arise. Conversations about combat, PTSD, drug use, and other such subjects will occur. Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome back to the Stay Zero podcast. I have Craig Meyer here with me today on Jake Bigelow's recommendation. Hopefully y'all listen to that episode.
Yeah, that was a great one.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah,
I've been super excited to talk to you about the class that you teach. What is it called, and what's your mission with that?
Sure. So it's a mastering proactive policing for patrol. Basically I have an LLC, but I teach for a company called Blue to Gold.
Okay.
And it's a juggling act because I'm still full-time. I'm a patrol sergeant and a SWAT TL at my agency currently. And so it's a juggling act of trying to find time to travel and teach that, which pretty much I teach it once a month.
Okay.
In person all over the country. And then I have an on-demand platform where officers, sworn officers can take it wherever they are, which has been really cool because the reach for that's been awesome. I've had cops across the United States, Canada, the UK, Australia, and it's just growing because, this class is universal, right? It's not a case law class, so it's not state specific, even country specific. This class is all about human behavior, and it speaks to the line level officer, right? This is basically for the line level officer in a city, in a suburb. It's not a highway level interdiction class. Like, this isn't the class for those that are on like a 4 or 5 lane highway trying to knock down huge loads and spending days and days, waiting for that right one.
Okay.
This is for the officer that's going out there and combating the criminal element, that, dangerous individuals that are contributing towards the crime stats every week where they work, right? So inside the lines, because those inherently are the most dangerous ones because they're not business-like. They aren't moving large loads on the highway and thinking like a business person would. They're usually irrational. They're inherently armed. They're more than likely armed in these situations when they're dealing and doing other crimes at the street level.
Just looking for targets of opportunity. And
it's just, that's what I just, that game's won at inches, right? Because it's, arrest and impacting the criminal element to stop all the other crimes on the back end, right? We hammer on the front end to stop the crime on the back end. That's why I'm huge on being proactive.
How did you get started and realize that there was a gap for this information and then find it?
Yeah. So that's really how this all comes about. And so I'm very open about this, and I own my stakes, and I always tell people, like, it didn't come easy for me.
Yeah.
Like, there's guys where, like, they come to my class and then within the first shift they go back to work, they're just hitting, they're like, it clicks, and I'm like, that's awesome, right? But it was never that way for me. So really it starts, I grew up as a little kid. I always knew I wanted to be a cop. I grew up in a law enforcement family, like, all throughout, but I was watching Cops as a kid, and that really hooked me. And, some people, every kid, like, when they're little, like, I want to be a police officer, or a firefighter, a doctor, right? But, like, that never left. Like, I always knew that I wanted to be a cop, even when it wasn't cool, even in, like, middle school and high school, and people are like, oh, you want to be a cop? Now everyone's like, oh, that's awesome, right? But, like, at the time, it's not cool.
Well, 8-year-old Craig, why are you breathing heavy? Watching Cops, man.
Yeah, like, well, it's cool because, like, I had specifically my Uncle Craig, who I was named after, I lived near where he worked, and every day I'd be taking the bus to school, and I'd see all these cars parked on the side of the road and stuff, and, like, he was having huge arrests at the street level, and I was like, oh, that's intriguing to me. And so I never stopped wanting to become a cop. Went to college for criminology, played football, did all these internships, and finally, when I was I've been applying to all these different agencies. This is back when it was hard to become a cop, and it was hard to get in there. Now it's it's hard.
Fog a mirror.
Yeah, but then it was really hard. Like, my first agency I finally ever got hired by, there was over 1,000 applications for one spot. And I got that just by luck because I had the person, he just happened to interview in front of him on another panel, and he really liked me and remembered me. And so I go through academy. I paid my own way through academy. I did alternate route. Like, I literally left a paying job to go and not be paid and pay for academy because that's how bad I wanted to become a cop. And that's just what you had to do at that time.
Yeah.
It was back in like 2012, 2013. And so academy ends, and I'm like all pumped up. I'm thinking, oh yeah, ready to rock and roll. We're going to go, tear it up out there. And I go to my first agency, and I get an FTO and we go out there, and unfortunately that FTO was not into it. You know, It wasn't all about training. He wasn't proactive. And I literally for 4 months of training just didn't do anything. I have some horror stories, you know, we don't need to talk about them, but like I didn't learn anything. And I got off FTO on my own, and it was really like a high crime area where like there's legit stuff going on out there. You can't just hide. You can't be complacent. Like you're put on blast out there if you don't know what you're doing. And pretty quickly, I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. This is horrible. And I had another officer who was fresh out, and he had a good FTO, and he's like, yo, like he taught me this, and this. He said, you need to go to these classes. So I was like, man, that's what I want to do. So I started investing in my own training, right? I started paying for myself to go through different trainings and classes and learning and, you know, through trial and error on the street. After coming back from those classes, I was applying it and I was having some success, but I was finding like all the time I was taking these classes that they were showing like what to look for, like this behavior, that, right? They would show a few things, but they wouldn't dive into why the human body is doing it. Why is the brain making someone do that? The why behind the behavior. And so it's harder for us as the adult learner to not, you know, ask ourselves why. And if we're not told why, we don't buy into it as much.
Sure.
So I was like seeing a need there for explaining the why behind all these behaviors. So I started, you know, studying the behavior and taking different classes, and I started applying this stuff on the street, having success. And after a short time at that first agency, I left and went to a neighboring agency for no other reason than, you know, it was a huge pay bump. What I was getting paid at that first agency was like, I couldn't even survive. It was so bad. And so the next neighboring agency, they were like, yeah, come on board here. It's like a 16 grand pay jump. I'm like, I have to, like for survival and for my family. And so I get over there, and it was cool because a 17-year veteran, proactive cop, right? He was way ahead of his time, like took me under the wing, and he didn't need to do that. But, he's a friend now, but I tell him you saved my life and my career. Like, he took me under the wing and he showed me all these different things and got me snake bit with being proactive. And he's like, cause like when I first got there, I was like, yeah, I want to get in an unmarked, blacked out car and just watch. And he's like, no, man, you need to be highly visible. You need to be in a marked unit. They need to know you're the police because we're going to start watching reactions to presence. And I was like, what? He was like, and then I started seeing it, and he gave me the basis, right, for all this. And so I was snake bit, and I took it and I just ran with it with a full head of steam. And, took it way beyond that. And I started diving into neurology, psychology, reading all these books, just nerding out on this stuff and trying to find the why behind all the behavior that I wanted to speak to and teach so that it stands muster in court. Mm-hmm. There's buy-in, there's admin backing on it, and it's credible, right? So I started doing all this reading and building class and started compiling all my footage because I was having a ton of success in the street that I was seeing guys weren't having. And I was seeing that it was mostly because guys weren't being taught this stuff, right? Like they go through FTO, and they're taught how to handle a call, the basics, right? And those things are important, and you can't do this job if you don't know how to do those things. Sure. But there was a huge disconnect because, they're coming out of FTO and usually not being taught this stuff, but then there's no one teaching them it after FTO, and then they just start becoming reactive and handling calls, and they're letting criminals slip through the cracks and getting beat, or they're getting hurt and killed because they're not seeing these behaviors that they've never been taught, right? Like we're so guilty of being like, oh, how'd they screw that up? How'd they do that? But usually it's because they've never had that training, and we can't expect someone to know this stuff if they've never been shown it, never been trained on it. So in doing reading and whatnot, I came upon this book right here, which is easily the most influential book training that I've ever had. And
what's the title on it?
So it's called Where Everybody Is Saying. It's by Joe Navarro. And like for me, this is my Bible. If you go through here, like it's riddled with notes and everything. And I've read this 30 something times now. I make it a mandatory thing that I will read and go through on the plane, but at least once before every class that I teach to freshen up. Yeah. And what's cool is like I spent so much time reading his books and like kind of just looking up like, oh my gosh, the apex predator, like he was an ex-FBI guy and he did so much great work here. And there's so many things in here that I've never seen done in any other book. And it directly spoke to me. And I started adapting that to the street level policing. Like he's talking about people that he's seeing in his work and mostly in interview rooms and walking around on foot while doing surveillance and whatnot. But he did all this studying and learning on different behaviors and met with psychologists, neurologists, and met the why behind it. And he talks about that in all of this book here. So I started adapting that to street level policing and making a hybrid of it and having huge success. And what's cool is I reached out to him, wanting to say thank you. You saved my life and thousands of other cops, and you've helped put thousands and thousands of serious wanted fugitives in jail and prison because of what you did in here and what we were able to do. And he immediately followed up with thank you, let's hop on a call. And we became friends since, and we converse on this behavior, and he's one of the leading experts in the world. And I showed him what I was doing, and he's seen all of it. And he's like, Craig, you have something special. He goes, that is like nothing I've ever seen. He goes, that is awesome. We need to talk more. We need to
that's great.
And I was like, and to have someone say like that, someone like him validate that was everything for me. And he was so intrigued by it. And I was just, because I have the video footage and the still frames and the slow-mo to back everything, it proves everything that he saw in there, because he didn't have the body cameras, he didn't have the video.
Sure, yeah, he's just.
I have all that to parlay up to it to validate that, and so that's where this thing is becoming huge, and that's what we do in classes for about 10 hours. We literally go through. We start by I show what a behavior is, what it means, the psychology behind it. I've broken down the limbic system of freeze, flight, fight in a way that we as police officers can understand.
Okay.
So it's, it's very easy to take in and apply. And I've taught what that looks like when a criminal is doing it, when they react to the presence of a police officer in real time.
What are some examples of those indicators and behaviors that you see?
There's tons. So it's cool is in class, I've made what I call the proactive pyramid. Okay. And so I build the base all the way to the top of like the importance level and the foundation, so that when they return to the street, they never unsee these things anymore, and it switches them on, right? So it's really reaction-based policing. And just for anyone watching out there, this is backed by case law, all right? Wren is just a case that says pretty much pretextual stops are illegal. And so obviously certain states aren't on board with that anymore.
What exactly is a pretextual stop?
If I see behavior, reaction to presence, my premonitions, my training of what I'm seeing the individual doing, displaying, exhibiting before I find a lawful violation, it doesn't matter as long as I have a lawful violation, right? So like,
but you can't pull them over because of a behavior.
Yes, you're right, exactly, and that's what I preach over and over again, because some people confuse that sometimes, and so and that's
then you're just profiling. I assume that's what they come at you.
They try to say, and they try to do that during intimidation tactic time, and we talk about that's a modern day fight tactic, but we'll talk about that in a little bit.
Okay,
verbally.
yeah.
So pretty much I teach this thing similar to Joe explains, is we look for clusters of behavior, right? Puzzle pieces, right? With one puzzle piece, right? One behavior that is indicative of someone experiencing stress and anxiety. It's not as accurate if you pull out, let's say I see a person go by me, they display one of the behaviors that I teach, and I go after them and I wait and I find a violation and I do a traffic stop. It's not nearly as accurate of a picture of someone who's truly engaged in criminal activity as if I'm watching and I'm seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 behaviors. So I love 3 or more is a lot more accurate picture. Yeah. And so it's great because we are investing our time in those who deserve it most, like the criminals, right? Like, for my guys that take class, they're no longer looking for a random tail light, a random headlight out, a equipment violation or a moving violation. We're looking for behavior first, finding our violation second, and then working it from there to see what level of criminal activity we're at. Because these behaviors show themselves at all levels, low level, like someone who has a bad license, suspended license, registration's out, all the way up to someone who's got a body in the trunk, is wanted for a homicide. They will show themselves because it's built into the human body since the beginning of time. It's that threat response. Like since the beginning, like when, our ancient ancestors saw a saber-toothed tiger or, some kind of threat, what that does to the body, you're like seeing a bear, right, on a trail. And
I think that might be why movies like Hannibal Lecter or like villains like that are kind of fascinating, because they seem to have an uncanny control over that limbic response. You know what I mean? Or like this cold motherfucker is just looking at you. Not his heart rate didn't even raise. Like there's a fascination. I feel because we're all suspect to our our limbic system, right? Or we're all susceptible.
Yes, we are. Yeah, it's something you can't fight.
Right.
But the very, very, very small percentage of population that is like
Crazy
that, usually
fuck.
sociopaths. Usually psychopaths. Sociopaths, they have a ability to fight it. So yes, it is possible for someone to try to fight and beat this and keep themselves calm, but it's not probable. Right? It's really rare. And so that's why I'm not afraid to talk about this stuff, because even, because a lot of the criminals that we've arrested, they get copies of our reports and discovery and all these things. And all my guys were articulating all the behavior that we're talking about here, and they still can't fight it.
No.
Like tried and true criminals with history, like they still are not fighting. They can't beat it. So it's cool. So like back to the behavior, right? So I looked at them to reacting to a police officer on foot in real time, because and they need to see us and we need to see them at that first onset, because if we're hiding and they don't see us, it's not a true reaction, right? Because the context of the behavior change on someone is the true test. Like that's a more accurate picture. And when I can say the context is because they saw me and then immediately did all these different things, that's a more accurate picture. So back to the limbic system, how this all ties in. Freeze, flight, fight, and adaptations to those. So for individuals that are operating a motor vehicle, specifically motor vehicle, because I'm going to tell you they do this on scooters, bicycles, on foot, skateboards, all the different, we're going to talk about those things.
All right.
Yeah. So individuals that when they see a marked police unit and they're engaged in some level of criminal activity. When I say that, I mean like they've committed some kind of offense, they're wanted, even if it's a low level or they have something bad going on or in the car, they will see a marked patrol unit in their path in front of them, in proximity to them, and the immediate mind goes to freeze, pause, buy time, and they will slam on the brakes or they will rapidly decrease the speed. And we see that a lot. And then they will go up and sit up in their seat. So most people who are very relaxed, ventral exposure, right, exposing all of our organs, genitalia, everything that's very important to us is very relaxed and open. So people see people very relaxed in their seat.
I specifically like to expose my genitalia while I'm driving.
That's good. If you have it, right, not flaunt it, right? Yeah. Yeah. So individuals that when they see a patrol unit in the area, that first immediate response is very telling. It's very accurate because you can't fight it. Yeah. It's built into our mind, and it's to go from very relaxed to boom, up 10 and 2, right? Gripping the steering wheel. Position of hypervigilance. Hypervigilance is huge, right? Because they have to know where the threat is to appropriately distance from that threat. And we talk about distancing so much in class. Non-verbally distancing is the basis, for the biggest thing of class, right? The limbic system is the base of the pyramid. Second, we talk about non-verbal distancing, like physically putting distance between them and us, right? They're going to always constantly be trying to distance from us.
Yeah.
And we show what that looks like. I physically show the footage of that over and over again so that they have that own mental rep, right? We're rebuilding their mind. So they slam on the brakes, they'll slow down, they freeze, they'll go up in their seat, they're wide-eyed, right? Expanding their eyes. That deer in headlights look we hear about is back to this freeze mode, hypervigilance, right? Because like we hear all the time, hey, get in your fighting stance, and everyone goes from this to like this, right?
Yeah.
They're doing that in their seat. Position of attention, control, right? Getting up. They have to, like they're being up on their wheel, And so we see that a lot, and that's one of the biggest behaviors that we see, like to start this thing off, to kick this thing off. Like that counts for a few behaviors when they're going from here to up and here, like that's huge. And so, but I tell guys, I'm like, follow them for a little bit, maintain observation, see, does it increase, right? What are they doing now? So a lot of times now we'll see that where they're up in their seat, position of advantage, 10 and 2. They're maintaining visual on us, mirror checking, figuring out where we are, doing all these different things, moving things around. And then they will start to non-verbally distance, right? Physically distance, make rapid turns, get off the roadway, try to get distance between us and them. We'll see them start to wedge themselves between vehicles and traffic, even if it's unsafe, just to put buffers and barriers in between us and them.
All things I've done.
Yeah. Yeah. Like, and it's just, I'm like being completely, open about it. Like when I was in high school and college and we were being dumb and doing dumb stuff, we did this. We punched it. We distanced. We, pretended to go to sleep at the line, like all these, like looking busy, like, we're leaving the bar late at night. We're like standing around the car, like, oh, get on your phone, like all these things, right, are done at all levels, right, by people doing not a lot of crime and people doing more serious stuff, and it's true. And so seeing a lot of those things and experiencing a lot of those things, even at a very, very minimal level, I was like, this is real. And so we show in class over and over again all these clusters of behavior, and we build on them, and a lot of the same handfuls of behavior show themselves over and over and over again. So like we start out by teaching what it looks like when they're doing it in a vehicle, because that's usually the most common contact that we have is a traffic stop. But other ones that we really look at are pedestrian stops, people on foot, what they're doing on foot, and what they do on foot is crazy, man. So I tell people, like, watch what they're doing before they see you and then after they see you. And a lot of times we're going to see them walking down the road, very calm, relaxed, opened up, and then they see a marked unit cop. And this is for people who are engaged in criminal activity, and they literally start going to what we call turtling. They go into their shell. They start literally trying to hide in plain sight. They go from very relaxed, opened up, to literally going in their shell. Their shoulders come up, their chin tucks, they go into their body. And then a lot of times they'll get on the phone and they bury in the phone, trying to, trying to look busy and just take themselves out of reality. It's also a pacifying behavior. We're going to talk about pacifying behaviors here in a little bit too, how people calm themselves and relax, as the body wants to go back to a state of homeostasis, right? To a state of norm. Because like when the limbic system is driven up, like, and everything's going haywire, it's very taxing on the mind and the body. And we don't like that shit, right? So like, our body does things to counter that, like pacifying gestures, like stimulating blood flow, like people rubbing their arms, hand cleansing on their thighs, grabbing the back of their neck, stimulating blood flow, because the blood, when our threat response kicks in, our body's natural reaction is to take the blood and put it elsewhere. It takes it away from the digestive tract and the surface level of the skin and puts it into our extremities for fighting, right? And that feels it's very taxing, right? Because the digestive tract relies a ton on blood for feeling good and digesting. And when that goes away, people feel like they're going to throw up, they're sick, they're having a heart attack. People feel very cold and they shake when it's really not even cold. And that's what the body's doing. So like people will grab themselves immediately and try to start calming and stimulating blood flow, grabbing the back of the neck to try to feel better and calm themselves down. And that's what we are looking for. A lot of those pacifying behaviors are the ones that we look for because we know on the front end they're experiencing some level of stress and anxiety. Notice how I say they're not lying, they're not being deceptive, but there's something happening there, right? And to tell us that there's more that we need to peel back the layers on to see where we're at. So yeah, we'll see a lot of that. And it's not just verbal, we're not just seeing nonverbal distancing where they're trying to put buffers between us and them and diving off side streets into driveways, which we'll talk about in a little bit, all these different things. They'll physically, the mind does this too. It's eye blocking, right? So the threat is perceived through our eyes. It goes into our brain and the brain starts saying, oh shit, that's a threat. Right. So in this case, what the body's done a good job of this is eye blocking. They're literally blocking their mind from the threat by covering their eyes and shielding. So this is when I see a lot of eye blocking. This is a huge behavior. It's led to a lot of really serious arrests from criminals that it's very telling. Let's say there's a marked patrol unit over here. I'm driving. I'm in the driver's seat. I'm driving. I see that marked unit. We'll see this. They grab the back of their neck to stimulate blood flow. It's this instantaneous, this fast, even that eighth of window second. Back of the neck. Arm comes up, shielding eyes with bicep forearm, like this as they go by the cop car, and then they'll look away a lot of times, but they're covering their face. They'll do this. I'll see people do this. And it's not just blocking the eyes, it's blocking the mind from receiving that threat and seeing it, dealing with it, weighing on their mind any longer, because the cognitive overload has occurring because of that. So I'm like, oh, eye blocking, boom, right there. Like so many guys leave class when I show them that behavior and I show it in real time over and over and over again. And they're like, eye blocking, grab back of the neck, shielded the face, cover the face. They won't just do it physically with their hands. That's why we see that G-lean, they call it. They'll use the B-pillar to do that too. And I'll see them go by them. They'll just try to melt back into that seat and hide behind the B-pillar so they don't have visual. So that's a huge one that we see. There's a lot. There's so many, man. The driveway one is huge though. That one.
Driveway?
Yeah. So.
All right.
The nonverbal distancing in a vehicle. This is one we see over and over and over again. And so in class, that happens so much, but pretty much they will do all these behaviors that we're showing and then non-verbally distance, and then they will make a rapid turn into a driveway. And 99% of the time,
it ain't their house.
Oh, no way. No way. They will park in this driveway to justify that suspect behavior, that nonverbal distancing. Because I can't tell you how many, it works on a lot of cops, unfortunately. They haven't had training. They're like, oh, he made it home. Oh, he meant to turn there. He meant to last minute. Oh, he's close to home. This is rapid turn. He's probably just trying to get home. No. Yeah, no. They're rapidly turning in that driveway to justify that suspect behavior to you. And then they'll get out of the car, walk around the car. They're distancing from the car as well. We show it over and over and over again. Like for my guys that have taken class and my team that I manage on patrol, as soon as these behaviors are showing themselves and then they end up in a driveway and the doors open, it's immediately another unit, 78. For us, we use 10 code. And that's where the brand 1078 comes from, because I am huge on preaching trusting behavior, seeing a lot of behavior, and then you're getting another unit coming early, because we're minimizing foot pursuits, fights. It's getting all hands on deck. It's helping us and them, right? Because the more hands we have on deck, we're presenting them with an unwinnable scenario. Yeah, we are, and so it's minimizing a lot of those things. So like admin listening that is like, oh, I don't know if my officer's taking proactive class. Like this is going to minimize foot pursuits, uses of force, fights, and we'll handle business when we need to, right? But like, this is going to minimize those things because my class, it teaches them also how to speak to people, how to de-escalate, how to downplay, minimize, buying time to its perception field craft.
Well, it's almost like being bilingual.
Yes.
Like, you don't need to talk to me for me to judge you, or not judge you, but to read you. You know what I mean? To tell what's
nonverbals are huge.
Yeah, it's huge. And they say 98% of our communication is nonverbal.
Yeah, it's up there.
Let's take some classes on that shit.
Yeah. And I love it. This stuff's huge.
Awesome.
Like this is very adaptable to civilians too. People not utilizing it for law enforcement because it's safety too.
Yeah.
That's another thing in class. We talked not only about people experiencing stress and anxiety, pacifying behaviors, but we also talk about pre-action behaviors, pre-assault. Those are huge.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a little this week. I had some confrontations this last week that could have been physical, and I was thinking about like how, like, I don't, to my understanding, I have no legal obligation to let someone swing first. Yeah. Right? Yeah. But if you come up to me with an aggressive posture and a fast pace, and you're not slowing your pace as you get up to me, I'm going to drop you, because you've communicated plenty in context and in body language and in what you're doing as you approach me that this is going to be a confrontation.
100%.
But how could I explain that in a courtroom?
I'll tell you right now.
Because the general mass is like, whoever swung first is at fault. I'm like, bullshit. Like, just because I won the fight don't mean I started the fight.
For sure.
Like,
yeah. There's so many things that play into it. But so exactly what you just described there, we talked about in class and for articulation. They're closing the reactionary gap on you.
Right.
That's exactly what they're doing.
You just got within striking distance.
Yeah, for sure. And the posture, right? They're posturing, demonic posture, aggressive stance. They're telegraphing. Like for me, like, are they looking at your waistband? Are they looking at a gun? Where you see if your arm, what are they doing? Where are they looking, right? They're not listening to me to tell them to get back, right? How big are they? What's their stature, right? But yeah, the biggest thing I tell them is like they're closing the reactionary gap, and that's going to escalate it for us, right? Because that's what are your intentions, right?
Right.
The way their face is reading. What are they doing? What are they saying? What's their size? And just closing that gap is it's not good, and that's why there's times where we need to tactically retreat. But there's times where you can't too, and you gotta stand and fight. But we talk about that in class, and I talk about so many behaviors that tell us that that's going to happen way before it does. And so some of those behaviors we'll talk about now. Streamlining has been a huge one.
What is that?
So individuals in cars, on foot, we see this and we show it in class in real time over and over again. People have lanyards around their neck, sunglasses on, hats, jewelry, things of that nature. We physically see them taking those things off, right? And streamlining, because as we talked about, it's talked about in the book too, is individuals, they don't want things around their neck that can get cut up. It's our survival response right before they know something bad's going to happen. So you'll see them shedding sunglasses off their head, taking a hat off, taking a lanyard off. Yeah, but this is this is like the more low key, like, oh, I don't want to show my hand, I'm going to take this off.
Okay.
Right? It's easy to pick up when they're doing it. Obviously, they're taking the shirt off.
Yeah, the shirt's almost more of a show.
But like for us as cops, like they're not going to show their hand as easy because they know, they know it's going to show their hand. They don't want another unit to show up. They don't want these things happening. And I show a cool video in my class, and it interviews hardened, violent criminals in the pen talking about a game plan. They're transparent, talking about what their game plan was if they wanted to kill a cop and how to get away and all that, and talks about not wanting backup, not showing their hand, calculated, waiting for the right moment to strike.
Wow.
Right? That's the dangerous one.
No
right?
shit.
That's where this class comes in. Those are things you're going to pick up on from this class afterwards, like so not just streamlining, like nasal flaring. Like I show on video right before I get attacked, before I learn this stuff. That's really where this comes in, and we'll talk about it in a little bit. Owning mistakes. I missed a couple behaviors that should have told me that I was about to get into some really bad stuff with a really, really wanted fugitive. He was displaying all these things that I just had not learned yet in my career, and I always show them in class and break them down and show how important it is and what can happen if you don't know these things. And luckily I survived that encounter. I almost got killed doing it, but other people have not been so lucky. So like nasal flaring, like the body's oxygenating, sucking it in, and then you'll see the nostrils flaring, right? The nasal flaring, that nostril flaring. Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's crazy because if you know what you're looking for, it's like, you have to like calm yourself down when you're seeing it. You're like, oh shit. You're like, oh, here it comes, dude. Yeah, you'll see their feet start to point a different way, and they're starting to blade. Yeah. And then obviously more obvious ones that we talk about, we'll see them stretching out, and some of them you'll actually see them getting in the track starter position, where they literally will get on like an invisible line, and they'll get down like they're in a track start, getting ready to run and positioning their body like they're about to run 100.
That's crazy.
It's crazy. We show it in class, like all this. There's receipts for everything.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. it's cool, man. We show so much. The perimeter check too is another huge one that they're talking and then they're checking perimeter check. They're doing all that, adjusting the waistline. My guys, I'm proud.
Pulling his pants up so he can run.
Yeah, and I'm proud because my guys are so versed in these things because they have access to me and shift brief and all that. Like they're seeing it, they're like, oh, no, grab them, and they're intervening early on, or they're getting another unit there, and it's keeping them from having to get into some serious stuff, right? Because if you don't know, like I said, happened to me. I missed some things in it, and it cost us. Yeah, so.
You better pull those pants back down.
Yeah.
You don't run
guys are like
me.
adjusting them, pulling them up. I'm like, no, man, leave them around their ankle. Yeah.
I always wonder, like, why are you sagging your pants while you're running from the cops? There's one arm just to holding your pants up while you're trying to run.
And it's dangerous for them too, because so with my guys, I train this. We show foot pursuits over and over and over again, and this is in my shift brief slot too. And I show foot pursuits where it's someone running that's not armed, when they're freely opened up, symmetrical gait when they're running, right. And then I show guys that are running armed, and then ones that usually end up in shootouts, and it's an asymmetrical gait, and they're pinning waistband, and it's super dangerous. And I tell my guys, I'm like, you need to respond to that way differently than when someone's fully opened up.
Yeah.
And
does he have a gun, or is he just holding his pants?
So what's cool is, like, before shift brief, I will literally come in plain clothes, and I have a rubber pistol, and I will put it in my appendix carry, and I run from them, and I tell them, like, I get myself something like, if this falls out, I got to do some serious, like, PT or whatever. But if it doesn't come out, you guys have to do this, right? So I'm running as fast as I can, and they're literally running behind me, and they're getting to see in real time what it looks like someone who's armed running away from them, so that they have those reps.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have those reps, right, you're going to get into some foot pursuit under high stress out there, and you're going to miss it, and you're going to close the reactionary gap like the dog chasing the car, and once you catch it, it's going to turn on you and shoot you.
Yeah.
Because we see that over and over again when they are openly running, pinning waistband. When cops are closing the gap, they end up getting shot. Specifically this. Individuals who are running, pinning waistband, and the gun's concealed, when they make it out of sight around a corner, have a good area, they'll usually pitch the gun.
Oh, okay.
If they're not going to shoot the cop.
Okay.
The ones that are openly running with the gun,
draw on stage,
have had a chance to pitch it and have not, and maintain control of it because it means to them, their exit strategy is going to be to shoot it out with you. Like, plan on that. Like, we see it all the time. If they're running with that gun, and it's openly obvious that they're connected to that gun now, and they're not dropping it, pitching it, distancing from it, unfortunately, you're probably going to end up getting a shooting with that person, and we need to deal with that maybe a little different way. Lock this thing down, get a drone up, really just lock this thing down, get more units, okay? Because otherwise you're running, you're in a foot chase to be the first one in a gunfight.
Yeah.
We don't want to close the gap on them.
Yeah.
That's a different situation.
Just wait.
We keep visual, stay distance, kind of like we're treating that differently.
That's good.
I'm seeing cops getting killed all over the country, just chasing that rabbit down, even seeing a gun on them, not shooting and just closing the gap, and it's getting us killed. So
I talked about it with Jake. It's that getting sucked into a room. You got to stay on your wall, stay on your job, stay focused.
Yeah.
And do what you're supposed to do. That's wild, man.
Yeah, we see that for sure, especially during hostage rescue when we're doing HR stuff. Making sure that if you're pushing in the room, you're the first, second guy, like you're taking it, you're going in deeper, and you're getting your space, because otherwise you're clogging it up for the other guys.
Yeah, you got to make room.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's that tunnel vision, So, but yeah, it's crazy that the human behavior has been wild. I'm constantly working on this class because I'm still applying this stuff with my team every day. Like, no two classes I've ever taught have been the same. I'm always updating class, always looking for better examples, better footage, a better way to teach it, to where it's just so much. I mean, in class, it's crazy. I think I have 920 slides in one day that we run through.
Wow.
No, nothing dry about it. No bullet points. Just I'm teaching the mind, rebuilding the mind for mental reps,
language,
for the mental Rolodex. Yeah. And it's cool. I get success stories from guys almost every single day, and I live for that stuff. No one celebrates them more than me. I've never competed against anybody or not wanted other people to do better. I just, like, no one's a bigger cheerleader for these guys than me. Like, same with my other guys. The only person I ever competed against on the street for, like, getting huge reps was myself.
This is the only better purpose. Like, you're already a cop, right? You're out there trying to do some good in the world. There's a great purpose in that. And then you've found this niche on the side, and this gap and this need that the market, that your community needs, that's saving dudes' lives. And to get validation every day, man, that's amazing.
Yeah, getting validation from those guys, and then people like Joe and other instructors are like, "Yo, this is special," and it's cool, because you always come up with something cool, and you're like, "Oh, someone's already doing it, someone's doing it," and I have not found that, and it's just been really nice.
Yeah, sure.
And so, but the demand is crazy because I'm still full time and I can only teach it once a month. And like the company I work with, they're like, yo, we need you. Like, this is needed so much everywhere. I'm like, I'm pretty spread thin, but I love it. And that's
have you considered stepping back from the police department to teach full time?
Not anytime soon.
Yeah.
No, I love it. I love still being active. I love the job. I still have a passion for it.
Well, you're out there proving the concept too.
Yeah. And it works, man. We see it all the time. Like it's become to the point now where like I'm just more fascinated and pumped about the behavior change that I'm seeing than what is on the back end of it, as long as there's something on the back end of it.
Sure.
But it's been really cool. And my young guys have really bought into it. And I'm seeing guys with only 2 and 3 months on that are operating like guys with 5 and 10 years on proactively on the street. It's putting years on people's careers. That's what I hear a lot. It's like it's a proactive field training guide for guys to get in the game every day at the street level because it puts you in the game almost every day. You're just seeing behavior changes and trusting the behavior. I tell guys, trust the behavior. This is the most anti-racist, anti-profiling class there is because I don't care what the person looks like. I don't care what the car looks like. Who the high end, I don't care about that. What is that reaction? What is that behavior? And what are the behaviors that follow thereafter? Right? I don't care about the car, the person, whatever. Like it's the behavior. That reaction of presence is huge. And so like no one can take that away, right? I'm literally telling you, like, it doesn't matter what, age, race, sex, whatever they are, like what the car is, like watch the behavior because you'll talk yourself out of those stops too. If it's not what you think it can look like or what it can't look like.
Oh,
right?
Wow.
I've had people be like, yo, I trusted the behavior. Thank goodness. Cause this older lady in a minivan went by and then she ended up being wanted for homicide.
Oh shit.
Yeah, because she did these behaviors, all these behaviors, it's cool. And so I get a lot of messages like that. One of the craziest messages I think I ever got, and he's now a friend as a result of it, but I had a cop take my class. He's up in Louisiana at a really, really high crime city. It's terrible. And so he texted me and he said, hey, your class saved me and 2 of my partners last night. And I'm like, cool, man, awesome. And then he sends me a link to the video. And he had a really wild OIS, and he walked me through the whole thing. And it started with behaviors that I'd taught in class that he took 3 days prior. And he said I wouldn't have even paid attention to the car if he didn't do X, Y, and Z before in the vehicle. And that's when I knew I had something good. And then during contact, A, B, and C, all these behaviors, like I knew, and I plussed up with 2 other units, like you said, and he was sitting on a stolen auto switched Glock with a 30 round mag, and he had 2 kilos in the car, and he was under federal indictment, and he was going down swinging, and because they overwhelmed him and they addressed that threat and saw these behaviors in the way that I taught in class, it kept them alive, and wow. They were able to, neutralize that threat without getting shot. Whereas he said, like, if I had not had the training, I wouldn't have seen that vehicle. I wouldn't have addressed it that way. And we probably would have got killed. And to see it actually play out, I was like, holy crap, that's humbling.
That's awesome.
I was like, that could be any of our guys. And I was like, this is awesome. This is why
does it feel a little bit like a superpower?
It's cool. I want everybody to be able to do it because it can be done.
Yeah.
It doesn't click for everybody right away being able to do the behavioral analysis at the street level.
Sure. But
for those that it does, it's a career changing thing.
It's a fun game to play just in public.
Yeah, it is the game. We call it the game in class. We refer to it as the game.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like the game, just people experiencing stress and anxiety, not seeing. So like, not for public, but like for us, like it's the game, right? We are trying to find a lawful detention on them after seeing all this behavior, and they're trying to get out of that window before, get out of that window, and we're trying to stop them before it closes. It's the game of cat and mouse, at the street level, like they're doing the thing and we're doing the thing, trying to get a stop on them, and it's trying to get them stopped, get a lawful detention on them, lawful violation before they get out of that window and are back into society again to unfortunately wreak havoc as we're seeing now. It's a crazy time right now.
Wow.
Yeah.
How has it affected or changed your communication with people? Do you notice this stuff when you're talking to people?
Yes.
Like, all right, this guy's not into this conversation.
Yes,
I'm going to let you
100%,
go now.
100%.
Like, they're turning their feet or their blade, their body.
Yeah, 100%. Like, and so like, not to get, so to get away from even just being a police side of it, like even just in personal life and dealing with, people on the street and talking to them and having conversations, it's hard because I see them experiencing the stress and the anxiety. I have to be like, hey man, it's cool. Like I have to de-escalate and talk them through. Like, hey man, it's okay. Like I could see them doing things and I'm like, oh man, you're really not like, even I had superiors come and have a conversation with me, and it wasn't something I was bothered by, but it was a hard decision for them to make or tell me. And I'm like,
you can tell that
it's cool, man. I'm like, it's cool, man. Like you're really stressed out. Like everything cool. Like I see them doing all these things and neck grabbing and chain. I'm like, oh my God, like it's cool, man. Like everything's okay. So yeah, it's, you don't want to use it on in your personal life and relationships.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, it is hard not to.
I mean,
you know something's up,
like, even whether it's, I don't have nearly the in-depth understanding that you do, but I can, for the most part, be like, is that a passive? Is he pacifying right now?
Yeah.
Is this an anxious energy of this
because you
action
see
that they're doing?
It's different than the baseline of what they were just doing, and so you know something's up.
Right. It's like,
it's hard to speak.
Do they look comfortable or not?
Yes.
Like, let's start there.
Yeah, discomfort versus comfort.
Right
and those are two totally different things. Yeah. And that's what this class is about. And it's not just about seeing them, but like for guys that like know something's up, but they don't know how to articulate it, that's where this comes in.
Yeah.
I teach guys how to articulate it for reports and stands up in court.
That's great.
That's huge, because articulation's everything, especially in our field, and being able to speak to this stuff. It's nothing if you can't speak to how it lends towards your reasonable suspicion for maintaining that detention of them being involved in criminal activity. If you can't speak to it in your reports and in court, it doesn't.
I don't know. The guy just approached me, so I hit him.
Yeah.
Like, well, now you're going to get arrested.
Yeah, for sure.
Versus walking down the context, the body language, the posturing, the pre-attack indicators that he exhibited. I imagine the cop would be like, oh, shit. All right, well, I'm going to go arrest that guy now.
And talking about it that way, and being confident. That's the confidence you get from class and what I'm teaching. Like the confidence in what you're seeing because of this is everything. Confidence is huge because when you're confident, you're fluid, you're smooth, you're not doing things half speed. We as cops, like when we're on the defensive, if we have a good violation, if we have something good, like we do it half speed. And as you know, like when we do things half speed, you get hurt. That's when you get hurt. But when you're going through full speed and you're fluid with things and you're operating, high speed, like that's when we're good and we're in the moment and working through things successfully and safely. But when you go at half speed, you get hurt. It's like same thing with sports. If you're like, not only do things half speed, that's when people get injuries and get hurt.
That's true. Last play of practice is when everybody gets hurt.
Yeah, because they mentally check out.
Yeah, they're like, one more rep. Okay.
Yeah, and then cops, like if they're not solid on their detention or solid on what they have, it's easy for criminals who've played the game to intimidate them out of stops, intimidate them out of what they have, and make it an experience it's not worth dealing with. And then they backpedal and they get out of there, and that's how they're able to walk free and get back into society.
Wow.
So
what are some of the cooler stories or wild excuses you get, or some story time?
Yeah, for sure. One of the ones I get a lot, obviously, and I see this is I have to go to the bathroom. And we hear that all too
That's
much.
the reason for the anxiety.
Yeah, or I need to can I get out of the car? I have to go to the bathroom. Pedestrian stuff too on foot. I have to go to the bathroom. Yeah, the limbic system will make you feel you have to go to the bathroom because of the threat response, but it's a distancing thing. They are trying to disengage from that conversation. They're trying to distance from it, get out of view. Usually it's when they have narcotics on them, they're wanted because they're trying to cease that interaction with an officer and make that officer feel guilty about it. Try to be like, make them feel like, oh yeah, you can go to the bathroom. I don't need to talk to you anymore. It's not worth it. I don't want you to defecate yourself. They'll threaten that. Like, oh, I'm going to piss myself. I'm going to destroy myself. All that. We hear that all the time. And I've never had anybody do that and actually commit to that after being arrested.
What if I really did like, hey, can I piss on the side of the road right here? And then we'll just continue this talk. Like, how would that, if the guy legit, because I had a guy, when I was a fireman, there was an officer, the guy was kind of a prick. And he came by and he bragged to us that he had just pulled a guy over that had to go to the bathroom, and he let him sit there till he shit his pants.
That's terrible.
And then let him go. And I was like,
terrible.
That's kind of a dick move, man.
Yeah, that's more than a dick move. Yeah, you should be fired doing that. Yeah.
He's like, I just sat in the back of the car. I was like, wait till this guy shits himself.
That is horrible.
It's because people do. I've been rushing home, toes curled in the floor.
Yeah, you know what though? But usually those same individuals aren't displaying all these other behaviors.
Sure. Yeah.
It's not just someone who's speeding. Like, I have to really go to the bathroom. I don't have anything else going on, because we can see that. Like a good trained officer who takes class, like we can filter the difference. Sure. Because if someone really does have to go to the bathroom and whatnot, things are getting longer. Like we've facilitated that in certain situations, more times than not. Unfortunately, that's not the case, but we can tell.
Yeah.
There's discretion. At least switched on cops can usually tell those things, right? But we don't ever want that to happen to somebody because we care about people too. We don't want anybody doing that to themselves.
It's not a way. It's embarrassing. It's horrible.
We don't want community. Yeah, we don't want anybody doing that. No matter what they've got going on, we don't want that. If that's truly something going on, we don't want that happening.
Yeah, he was proud of it.
Yeah, it's terrible.
Quit talking to that.
It's not a person.
The whole crew. I was a fireman. He came to the stage. Was like, fuck that guy.
Yeah, and that's how it should be, because that's not someone that we want to work with ever, because it's a very cynical mind.
Yeah, it's a little twisted there.
And that's not the norm, but they're out there, in all professions. But,
yeah.
So back to the excuses, right? So we get the bathroom one. I can't tell you how many large arrests I've had where they were like, oh, I need to get out, I need to go to the bathroom. And then the person had, several hundred grams of methamphetamine and trafficking mats and crazy stuff. Other ones that we, people that are like, excuses, right? So, I'm going to the hospital. We hear that. My wife's in the hospital. I'm having the baby. We hear the crazy, those ones all the time.
No shame.
Yeah, no shame. They'll just do whatever they can. The desperate person does desperate things.
Yeah.
We've seen a lot of those. So yeah, as far as excuses, I would say the bathroom one is a lot. People saying they're going to defecate themselves, that they have to go to X, Y, and Z. And what were you asking the other ones?
Just excuses that people are making or whatever. I wanted to ask, so what would be the best thing to do to trick the cops coming by? Should I wave? Should I make eye contact and wave and be like, hey, I love you guys while I'm driving by?
Oh, like that was
the opposite, right?
Yeah, but we teach that too.
Yeah,
disclaimers. I call it disclaimer behavior.
Okay, what's that?
Yeah, so pretty much things people stage physically or do to try to make them appear like there's no way they're engaged in criminal activity.
Yeah,
they go to extreme lengths sometimes.
Pretend like you own the building, kind of thing.
Well, no, but just like things they stage, like putting a military uniform hanging up in the back rear window, so that when they drive by, we see that hanging back there, and it looks like, oh, it's military, man. There's no way. They'll stage Air Force hats, military hats. They'll put stickers on the car, like Army veteran, Afghani warrior, all these different things.
Interesting.
That they're not.
Yeah.
Right? Like stolen valor to make sure they're not getting arrested. They'll put these things in mass. So like baby on board, military stuff. They'll stage car seats in the back when there's not even a kid in the car, parents in the car, or no family. They don't even have them.
Wow.
They'll stage those things. They do unsolicited waves. So the unsolicited wave is a big one.
What is
like
it?
They're waving, but it's extremely uncomfortable.
Oh,
like there's people. I
wave.
tell people, watch traffic. Watch what people are normally doing. Right? What does normal look like? The average person, when they see a cop car in traffic, park near them, go by, and they're like, "Hey, look," or it'll just be like, "Hey, how's it going?" You're like, or just go about their day. They don't care because they don't have anything to care about.
Yeah.
But then there's the opposite.
Check my speed, slow down a little bit.
Yeah.
Roll on by.
Yeah, for sure. And then there's the opposite of that, where it's like not this, but it's like, oh shit, like or just outliers. If you watch people enough, you get to learn. And I tell guys that I'm like, you ever having trouble picking this stuff up? Tell yourself to watch traffic and watch people for a few days, and not pull out after them. Just watch, right? Yeah, respond to your crimes and whatnot, but just watch what normal looks like so that you can reset. Because it'll stick out. It sticks out so big when you know what normal looks like for the most part, to know how to work further. It's crazy when you start to see what normal looks like and develop a baseline of what normal behavior looks like, and then see all these people engaged in criminal activity, what they do. It's so different. That try to get by. Like I was talking about earlier, where people pull into driveways to try to look like they live there.
Yeah,
people pull into drive-throughs a lot too. We have them pull up into a drive-through. They will jump out of the car and pretend to look at the tires and kick the tire, pop the hood, look busy, get out and jump on the phone and look like angry like they just meant to pull over there. Justification, right? They are trying to justify that suspect behavior as non-criminal to an officer who's watching them.
Right.
And that's
give it a different context.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and we see it all the time.
Was that Tommy Boy where they run out and act like they're being attacked by bees? Yeah. The cop's like, I'm allergic. Me too. Fuck that. And they just drive away.
It's been going on forever. It's not going away anytime soon. Recession proof,
It's a chess game. Right?
It is. That's why I call it the game, because they do these crazy things. And the biggest part of my class that, so like, not to go back to Joe again, but he said that when I explained my class, he's like, one thing that my class is doing that no one else out there is doing at the street level, and it's why I'm sitting on something very insane, is because I debrief these criminals after the stops, and I have them admitting all of the behavior that I'm teaching to validate it from the criminal side. I've done that. And they literally walk me through from the onset of seeing the cop car to everything. And I show those videos in class, and that's when I get really real buy-in. Because
what are they when they admit, like, yeah, man, you scared me, so I just didn't know what to do?
No, that's the lie. I'm talking they are validating the behavior I'm literally teaching. Like the most recent one I did a debrief on was the guy had drugs in the car, and he was very cooperative. So I was like, hey man, like, we've been pretty cool with you, right? Like, take me through the stop, right? Like, just for me, I want to know, like, what happened when you saw me? Because man, when I saw you, it went like this, the stop sign didn't even exist. I blew that shit. I knew I was riding dirty, and the stop sign didn't even exist anymore, man. And I was like, oh shit, I'm dirty. There's a cop. Boom, and panic mode. And he's like, and I put in this driveway here, and I was like, I gotta figure out what my plan is. And that was just one, and I've had it happen over and over again. What do you think when you saw the cop? Oh, total panic, right? And when I huge drug arrest I had with a dealer with all different drugs, one of the passengers was like, I was like, like take me through the stop. What did your driver do there when he saw you? He goes, paranoia, man. And we just went into it. He goes, he was moving stuff all over. He leaned up, man. Oh man, like all that. They were validating all this stuff. Yeah. I have guys validate it all the time, and it's big. And now that I've seen a value in it for training officers. And also standing up in court, because I can speak to this court now. So not only am I teaching the behavior, not only are the books in psychology, neurology from doctors saying it works, but I have literally suspects admitting these exact same things as they happen in real time, and the video to back it. Like, try to take that away. You can't.
Yeah.
Like, I can literally speak to how I've debriefed these suspects who engage in these things, showing the same behavior I'm teaching.
What's that journey been like of getting into the courtroom with something like this that, I don't know, I mean, it's not a perfect science, right? It's not a test that you can say positive or negative, right? It's a little bit subjective.
And that's what scientists try to say. They're like, oh, there's no way to test it. Yeah, and there never will be. Mm-hmm. And this is why. Because anytime you have outside influence, or anytime a human brain, anytime we think someone is watching us, validating us, judging us, testing us, or we will alter our behavior. Right. And so that's why it's really hard to put a judge on this thing, because you really can't, because they are going to adapt and change. And that's why I teach cops too, like how you act will change their behavior too. That's why we need to be very relaxed, unassuming, not judging, be very calm, because we need them to relax too, to see what normal looks like. And then when we start asking the hard questions about contraband, illegal things, pressing, we see those different things. Because a lot of people are inherently nervous when they're dealing with a cop. Sure. Cop, like, shit, if I got pulled over, I'm a little nervous.
Sure.
Early on. And if that cop's really on me, glaring on me, intimidating, that's going to amp me up even when I'm not doing anything wrong. And that's why I tell my guys, you need to be calm, friendly.
I've dealt with police that I felt were trying to provoke me.
Me too. Oh yeah, they're out there.
Over
the robotic cop.
Yeah. Why are you coming on like this, man?
It's not necessary.
Yeah.
There's a time to switch it on for sure. But out of the gate when you're doing that, I'm like, whoa.
And I was 16. You're just trying to scare me as a kid.
Why? That's not our goal, man. Yeah. It's changed a lot in the career. It's changed, and we're trying to unwind it, or un-F it,
Yeah.
And talking to people is huge. And that's why my class tell you are going to be nice, polite. All right. You're going to explain things. You're not going to amp them up, because we don't want them to show these behaviors and stress and anxiety just because of how you're acting.
Right.
We don't want to waste our time or theirs.
That contaminates.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. And how we act and deal with individuals and how we speak to them, it has a huge bearing on what we're going to see there. And it can give you some false positives on the behavior if you're really amped up and you're showing behavior. It'll make them freak out too. So that's why I tell guys, calm down. It's a more accurate picture.
You need to be able to rule out your presence as much as possible.
Yeah.
And if you're keeping them calm, you're keeping the discussion down, and he's still going up.
Yeah, we're peeling back layers. Hey, listen, I ain't tripping on the violation as much. This is what you got going on. If they're still attacking me on it after I told them you're not getting a ticket, they're still amped up. There's more there, and that's what we're looking for, a lot of that. So
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, but for court, we don't go to court very often.
Really,
my guys, because they're articulating it so well that a lot of these defense attorneys are like, we're going to take the plea. And anytime it's come up in court, and I've spoken about it, I haven't really got pressed too hard on it, because a lot of times, no disrespect, but a lot of these attorneys don't know this as much in that realm, and they stay away.
Feel like
stay away
this
from
is
it.
Kind of a new frontier
for street level policing. Yeah. I don't want to sound like it is, but I feel like this class that I created it from scratch. It's never been done. It's never been explained or done in this way before. Tying the limbic system into the behavior, and then having the video to validate it with my own footage and my guys' footage. I'm not using other people's stuff, right? This is all ours, to speak to 100%, to know the outcome of what happened, good, bad, or indifferent. And so it's never been done that way, and especially with the debriefs attached in there as well. So it's really cool. I'm really proud of it. I work my tail off on it, because, people that are going to invest their time and money into it, they deserve the absolute best out of it.
Yeah.
So, and I make myself available to these guys after class too. I'm always talking to them, helping them. They call me. They're like, "Hey, how would you articulate this?" And I'm like, "This is how I would do that." And I'm like, "Hey, this is how I'd word it." And I'll email. We talk back and forth all the time. And it's getting tough now because there's thousands of guys who've taken it.
It's only going to grow.
Yeah, but it's good. It's worth it. It's a greater cause for sure.
Yeah. And while it's small, it's manageable. Absolutely. Get the feedback, get the stories. When it grows and it's not manageable, then you might have to stop putting your cell on the business card.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
But that's great, man.
Yeah. This stuff's been used to make some serious arrests. So if you want to talk about some of those, we can dive into it.
Absolutely. What are some of the bigger cases or people you found off of blocking their face instead of kicking their door in?
Oh, yeah. Crazy stuff. So I haven't talked about it yet, but one of the biggest blocks of class, and it's kind of something I'm known for, is foot patrol. I call it the dying art. Because cops are not getting out and walking a beat anymore. They're not creeping around in parking lots and getting really bad people off the street. They're not making contacts that way. Most criminals are only expecting a cop to be driving out in a cop car. Yeah. And if they don't see that, then they think, oh, we're cool, nothing's going on. Yeah. So my guys, what I'm big on, and I've always been this way for many years, is I will park my vehicle in an area where they don't know I'm there. And then I will get out and I will start walking around. It's usually at nighttime, and I'll start walking these apartment complexes, these sidewalks, these motels, businesses, all these areas that they're not used to seeing police. And I'll start checking them because the good people, the majority of people are good, and they love seeing me and my guys out there and creeping around, because it's a police presence. Because if you're not a criminal, like you want those police around, especially in high crime areas that we have. And so when we see individuals on foot, we see the same reactions as we do in the car, but on foot. The frozen mode, the panic, they're looking around, telegraphing, trying to distance, trying to put cars between us and them, trying to, slump down in the car, to just all these different things we see. So one story that always sticks out, I have a bunch of them on foot that have been absolutely insane, but one huge one that everyone always asks about is the foot patrol I did at a skate park late at night. So there's this one park in our city, and it's kind of built like a snail shell where like it wraps around, and there's only one way in, one way out to get to this parking lot. And it's got like a 4 or 5 foot berm around it on 3 sides. And then there's a main road in front of it. And so anyone that's in this park, right, can see cars coming and going on the main drag, except for like a half mile down where there's a house and they can't see it anymore. Okay. So I was finding that every cop would just drive off the main road, make the turn, and go here and lap into the parking lot after curfew hours, which is 11 p to 5 a. You can't be in the park after dark. And a lot of crime was happening there, a lot of bad stuff. And so cops were checking these places after curfew, and they were pulling in a way where a person engaged in criminal activity in the lot had ample time to stop doing that thing, right? And mask what they were doing or just cease it, figure it out, right? So I said to myself, okay, I'm going to go to that park tomorrow night, and when no one's there, and I'm going to sit in the park and watch and like look, and I'm going to look around and see like what if I'm a criminal and there's a cop car going, where can I see that cop car to, and where can't I see it anymore? So that I knew when I was in my marked unit, if I was driving down the road, because there's a berm, right? And I can just see over the top and see if there's vehicles in that lot. But any lower than that, you can't see. So I told myself, and I filmed it too, where did my cop car have to make the next turn to double back around and come back around and then park and then creep into the park? And I figured out that there was a street down there where like once I'm at the street, they can't see me anymore. They don't know I'm turning around. So I played it cool. I saw a car in that lot there, and it was facing hypervigilance, facing out towards the road to look. And it had both doors open, and it was blacked out, and I couldn't see. And I was like, that's weird, So I go down past where they can't see him anymore to make sure he doesn't know I'm coming. Because if I double back now, they're going to just bounce or stop doing what they're doing. So I double back around the block, and I come around and I park behind a building, and I quickly get out. This is only like 30 seconds later, and I look up and the car's still there. And I'm like, okay, cool. It isn't, it's still doing its thing. So I close my door, lock it, and I start to crouch, and I start to go on like a low crawl, like put my wind in the face and start moving in, And so I low crawl, and I'm putting the horizon of the berm above me because it's all street lights right there, but there's no lights in the park. Okay. So once I'm in there, I'm cloaked by the night. Right. So I'm stalking in there, and I'm putting trees. I'm putting some trees between me and him, and I know I'm going to be lit up for a little bit until so I put the tree between me and him, and he can't see me coming. And so I finally get across the road, and I drop in, and I'm behind a tree, and now I'm in the dark, and I'm like, okay, did I make it in clean, right? And I look, and the car's still there. It's not doing anything. So I go another 10 yards, and now I'm like 50 yards from this car now, and it's in the lot. And so I'm like almost talking to myself. I'm like, what's going on here? Is like a couple just hooking up or something, you know, what am I at? So I'm like, I don't want to ruin that for him, you know? So like,
let him finish.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. Oh, thank God I didn't. Right?
Oh God.
Yeah. So I take my flashlight and I raise it up and I just hit it real quick on the car. And so what I was doing there was, cars sometimes when they would drive or come off side streets would like the lights would hit into that park every now and then. Mm-hmm. And I was just thinking, okay, what if there's any activity in the car? Because I can't see, right? It's not the safest situation to approach yet. I don't know what I even have in the car. If I flick my light there real quick, I could maybe see if anybody reacts to that. So, show you not, I'm sitting there. I hit the light real quick and I put it in my chest and I'm in the dark. I'm like 40, 50 yards out. And I see this dude and he sits up and like the car's facing me. And this dude is like facing the wrong way, straddling what appears to be the center console. And he's like gargled up, looking around from in the car. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what is this? Right? It's like a one-man circus in there. Like, what's going on? He's straddling the center console.
So he's facing the rear of the car. He's facing the rear. He's
facing the rear. He's straddling the center console. And then now he's like looking around at me, like all gargoyled up, looking around, hypervigilance. I'm like, ooh, that's bad. Like, that's weird, you know? So I'm like, all right. So I go look. I'm like, I already called out with an occupied vehicle there, and I told them I was parking and walking on foot. I always tell people out on foot, away from my car, because I'm tracking back there. They know I'm not there. So anyway, I get to be about from here to the wall away from the car, and I hit my light in the car. And what I saw, man, I was just not prepared for it. It took me a second to realize what was happening and what I had rolled up on. And unbeknownst to me, right in that moment, I had come upon a rape in progress. Wow. The driver had drugged a male and got him in the car, and had drove him to the park and had positioned him on that seat and wedged his mouth open and was raping him orally on the seat while he was unconscious. It was so bad. I thought the guy was deceased. The way he looked, I thought he was dead. I was like, this is corpse. Like this is one of the worst things I've ever seen in my life.
So two dudes.
Yeah. And the guy was eyes in the back of his head.
Was he dead?
He was unconscious. He was just drugged. He was
not
drugged.
consensual.
He drug raped. No way. He got date raped in his beer at a bar locally, and then got put in that car.
Holy shit.
Yeah. And then he got brought to that park, and he was actively being sexually assaulted when I rolled up. I saw it, and I saw it happening. And I was like, at first I was like, oh, these guys are drunk, hooking up. And then I'm like, oh my God, that guy is lights out.
Wow.
Like eyes in the back of his head. And he had no color. And I'm like, oh my God. And then the guy tried to close the door on me, and I ripped the door open and we detained him. And it took me I had him detained really quickly. And then I started piecing things together, and the guy wasn't coming to him, yelling, he's not coming to him. I'm like, oh my God.
You got calling.
I'm like, yeah, Sarge, I need you, major crimes, and my dad. I'm like, I need my son. Like, this is horrible. I'm like, it's so bad. I was like, oh my God, I want my dad. Like, it's dad. It was so bad. I was like, it's horrifying. And then we got major crimes out there, and they interviewed him, and sure shit, he admitted to it. He's like, it's a game I play in my country called Saka Lamaka or something like that. And only one person's playing that game.
Where the hell is he from?
He's from, I want to say he's from Guatemala, I want to say. Guatemala. Shit. And so, he admitted to that, and we went to trial, and he's convicted and deported over that. On-site sexual assault, one of the only ones I know in history ever. But the thing is this, I tell guys, like, get out of your car and walk, do your homework, put eyes on stuff, like, do off-the-wall things for off-the-wall results. If I just drove into that parking lot, like every other cop that I was seeing doing a check,
sure,
he would have had time to dismount, because this dude had elastic shorts on and everything. I don't even know how many times this had been done. Right, he had a polo on and elastic like skivvies, like just to be able to move down. And he
was in uniform.
Yeah,
for
it was weird. The whole thing was
whatever
crazy.
The hell that game was.
Yeah, not good. And if I had driven in that parking lot like every other cop, he would have dismounted, and I would have rolled up, and I would have probably thought I had two guys in a relationship, and one was just way more blacked out than the other. I'm like, hey, you guys need to go to ride and get out of here.
Right.
And we've heard serial killer stories just like that.
Oh yeah, Dahmer.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I was like, oh my gosh, I wonder how many times, because he never even denied it. He's like,
house.
Because I was like, at first I was like questioning, like, what did I see? I knew what I saw. I was like, your mind is like, did I just see that?
I don't want to have seen that.
And the guy, and then the guy was like, I'm not gonna, I didn't do it, but you know what? I'm not gonna argue with that officer if he says I did it. And I'm like, yo, if you accused me of doing something like that, it'd be a hard no, man. I wouldn't be like, yeah, well, I don't want to, I don't want to call the officer a liar. That's where
I don't want to be rude.
Then he copped to it, and hours later, that guy finally came to, and
what was his response?
He didn't want to believe it, and he was like, no way, because he's from a different country and had a family and kids and everything like that, and I think culturally he didn't want to accept it because there's some cultures handle that thing a lot differently, even if it's not consensual.
Yeah.
And he just was in this, you didn't want to believe it happened.
I wouldn't want to either.
Yeah, and the guy still had drugs in his pocket.
Nope, this is just strep throat. That's why my throat hurts real bad.
Yeah, he only remembered ever having one beer ever. And
I guess that's all it takes if they put something in it.
Yeah, it's terrifying.
That is terrifying.
Yeah, and so
I've heard of some shady shit like that. Like in Colombia, there's some kind of flower that if like the girls will blow it at you or put it in your drink, and your ability to like say no is erased. Like you just comply with anything, and they take you to your hotel room, or you take them to the ATM machine, and you empty your bank accounts, but then you have no memory of it.
Yeah.
And the next day, that's a big popular thing down there.
It's scary.
And so I guess
organ harvesting in
Guatemala, a little different game they play.
Yeah, it was an interesting one, but it was probably one of my most proud arrests and it wasn't drugs, it wasn't guns, it's all those things we chase after as cops, and it didn't have anything to do with those things. But it was truly one of the most horrific crimes that I've ever seen. It was an on-site. We handle so many different sexual assault cases on the back end or after the fact or being reported. Really? Yeah, like we handle a lot of those, like where people are telling us it happened or whatever, but like on-site, like rolling up on that is just. It's one of the only times it's ever even happened at our place.
Well, it's like the thing you dream about. Like, I want to catch somebody.
Yeah, that was a true predator.
I want absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. That takes a lot of thought and premeditation to drug a guy at a bar.
I just don't think it was the first time.
There. No way.
No way. They did a mouth wedge open. It was
from the position of the vehicle and finding the lot and all of it.
Yeah, I don't think it was the
clothes
first
he
time.
wore, the drugs he acquired, all of it. That was planned.
It's terrible. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was just one. There's a lot.
And you're in a college town. You're in Bryan.
We're next to one.
A college station.
Yeah. We're lucky that we're next to one because we don't have the campus in our jurisdiction. We don't have the mall. We don't have a lot of those things.
That's good.
We have a healthy level of crime that keeps us very busy, and it's good because it's just enough where we're on our toes. We get really good training and we can impact crime, but it's not out of our control like some of the bigger cities. We really do make an impact on crime by going out there every night and putting people in jail that need to go. Wow. We have a lot of property crime, a lot of car burglaries, and then they steal cars. It's always unlocked vehicles. They use they find an unlocked vehicle and then they hope to find a gun in the car and they hope the keys are left in it and they use that car to shoot back and forth at each other.
Shoot back and forth at each other.
Yeah, it's gang on gang, rivalry, and they don't ever aim. So like innocent people are usually getting their house and car shot. That's usually how that goes. But
what are the gangs in Bryan area?
We have some blood sets.
Really?
We have some blood sets, different blood sets, and they're always just changing names and different things like that. And it's just weird because a lot of the rival gangs are like incestuous, and we see them running together. Sometimes we're just like, what is the loyalty's different these days? It's like hybrid gangs. Then we have some Crips, and then we have a lot of the Latin gangs. Okay. They usually stay way more quiet though.
Really?
Yeah, they don't. They stay a lot more low profile.
It seems like they might be doing more than.
Well, we were really hard on making arrests and hammering back, years ago, and I think that really put a huge dent in them.
Oh.
Latin Kings, Serenos, MS-13, Tango Blast.
And they just all dealing drugs to college kids?
Yes and no. It depends. It depends on the gang. I know the neighboring agency has their own criminals. We have a lot of criminals that float back and forth, but there's certain individuals that where I work, they mostly stay in that area, and then there's some that are next door. But the college kids. Obviously, there's a huge market there. It's one of the biggest. I think it's the most populated campus in the country.
A&M.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of money there.
Sure.
Very affluent.
Sure.
It's a beautiful campus. But it's like any state you're in, any college, that's the market, the young kids partying, and I'm sure that they have their own people dealing,
A lot of wealthy, naive kids.
Internet, they're getting the drugs
away from mom and dad for the first time, having hot girl summer, don't give a shit, just think that, it won't happen to me.
Yeah, and so like it's funny, but we don't make a lot of our arrests of them dealing to the colleges. We don't see those deals, right? It's a lot of the harder drugs inside the city.
Okay.
Yeah. There's so many small chapter drug dealers out there, and this is nationwide too, that it's really hard to keep up. Everyone's trying to make a buck, and at some level they're dealing, even if it's just to support their own drug habit.
Yeah.
It's crazy, man.
You're on the SWAT team too, right?
Yes. Yeah.
What has that been like?
It's been cool, man. I'm currently the TL over the team, and I came on a few years ago and it's been really good. I'm learning a ton. I'm always the first one to say there's a lot more experienced guys in the team, a lot of different backgrounds, a lot of military guys in the team. And so I have no problem and I'm comfortable with deferring to them on certain situations and conversing with them. And I like it. And it's worked well for me.
That's good leadership.
Yeah, for sure. And that's how it's supposed to be, man. Like some people you find when they are unsure of something or they don't know something, they revert to intimidation, angry, delegating, all that shit. Like for me, if I'm like, I'll be the first to be like, hey, listen, what do you think on this? Like you've done a lot of this. Like my explosive breach guard, like, hey, how do you want to approach this? Or my snipers, hey, what would you do on this? Where do you want to be? How do you want to pre-deploy? And my op plan too, I'll converse with them. Hey, listen, what do you like about this? What don't you like? To the point where I'm not like, if they want to change something, if they can speak to it and I think it's good, like I'm not so egotistical. I'm like, yeah, actually is a good point. Let's change that, or let's do that, or that's a good point. You know, like that's not supposed to be. You know, when you don't have as much experience tactically, somebody like it shows maturity when you're able to defer to them on those things. That's what that's supposed to be. Yeah. Plus, you get buy-in from your guys. They trust you more when you're willing to listen to them and defer to them on certain things. So,
absolutely,
it's good.
Where did you learn to do that? Did you have a leader that you grew up with that they kind of left an influence?
Yeah, I've
Tell me about them.
Yeah, I've had a lot of I've invested a lot of my time in reading leadership books and paying attention to people who are already, you know, active leaders that I follow and what success they're having.
Yeah.
And at my agency, there's a few people who are good leaders, and something that they've told me is like, you need to play on others' experience when they have more than you, more seniority, more experience, you know, because so really it started when I promoted as a sergeant a lot younger than I thought I was going to, and a lot earlier in my career. Words of advice: be careful taking the sergeant's exam for practice.
Why is that?
Because you might make the list and promote.
Oh shit! So you were just taking it to?
I was taking it for practice. Yeah, I still had so many things I wanted to do, like be on street crimes and do, you know, K9 if it came up.
Did you promote out of some of those jobs then?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, because you can't go into them once you're a sergeant unless you're going to run the unit. Yeah. So it kind of hurt, but I was like, you know what?
Could you reject the promotion, or was that a dangerous
I could, but it's like unheard of. Yeah. And like the odds of it happening again where I could get it and all that, it's like so tough. Because eventually I knew I wanted to be a sergeant.
Sure.
And I had so much good to offer. I had so much energy and good to offer that I knew like if I rejected it or if I didn't take the test, like it was selfish. It really was selfish because I knew there was a lot of younger officers, a lot of different officers that I could impact and really do good things with, like what I'm doing now. Like I know a lot of the guys that have come to my team on purpose to get really good training, to learn proactivity, to be developed. You know, I'm huge on developing my guys. Huge on it. And that's how every supervisor should be that way. Train them, develop them. Like the reason I do all these things in ship brief every day and run them through high stress situations is to develop their critical thinking. It makes my job easier. Whereas we're going through all these high stress situations, I'm building their mental Rolodex where now they're not calling me as much. They're more high speed on stuff. I'm developing them to be unofficial leaders and then future like official leaders.
Sure.
Yeah, I'm big on that.
Setting
making them critically think is huge. Yeah. Right? And that's how it's supposed to be. Yeah. And like I said earlier, it's sad because a lot of these guys on other teams will come to my shift briefs to learn because it's unfortunately not happening everywhere as it should be.
How do the other shift leads perceive that?
I've never had any pushback from it.
Wow.
At least that I hear.
Have you had any step up and mirror you?
Yes.
Awesome.
100%.
Awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I've seen other shifts that are absolutely doing that and mirroring it. And I will literally link them. So I have a playlist of videos, and they're all a lot of critical thinking videos, a lot of OASs, debriefs, like responses to structure fires, different things like that, that I show guys in my debrief, guys and gals in my debrief, and work through. And I send that link out to anyone. It's public, right? So any of my guys that want to take that link and use it to run through these exercises with their officers in their ship brief, I applaud that, and I want that to happen, and it's good. I don't keep it close to the chest. I'm all about everybody developing their guys, having success out there. I don't like being unprepared. I don't like anyone feeling that way because, like I said, back early in my career, I was so unprepared. I was clueless.
Yeah.
Thank God I didn't get into anything really bad, or I would have been totally lost.
It gives me a lot of anxiety when I feel that way. Like I remember when I was a fireman, first going out on medical calls. And as the new fireman, you're the one doing patient care, right?
FNG,
the guy that knows the least is the one with the patient.
Yep.
And just, I mean, probably the first year or two, still feeling those nerves every time the tones would drop. Like, what's going to be wrong with this guy? Like, am I going to know what to do? Am I going to embarrass myself in front of this crew? Like, is this the day I get a call sign? Fuck.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And those are natural things, it's natural to feel that way.
Man. I was up Chuck for like 6 months for throwing up during a CPR one time. And yeah, man, I'm the knowledge, the information, when you have it, you can relax and be comfortable. And I'm sure that's what you're chasing there.
Yeah. It makes me feel better. And,
man.
And guys really enjoy it. They take a lot away from it. Like even my own guys, like I love that because I keep an open door policy and people say that, but like I really do. Like I love that when they come back from like the jail after making a huge arrest, to come to the officer, like, yeah, like pumped, like, dude, Sarge, like, good behavior, dude. Got him. This is what it was. I'm like, yeah. He's like, yeah, he's a really bad criminal. Yeah. And some of the arrests that some of my younger officers have had with like a year and a half and less on, have just been like, I'm like, man, if I had this stuff when I was, because it took me several years of my career, but I caught for like 11 years now, 11 something. If I had this even like in my first couple of years, it would have been game changer. It took me years to figure this out and put this together. And so now I'm literally like giving them years on their career with this class, even for one day.
Yeah.
And so like I've got guys with like a year and a half on, they're out making arrests that like I would have gone nuts over 10 years into my career. They're like making huge arrests of like wanted human sex traffickers that have done murders across the country and stuff, and because of the behavior, because like behavior starts itself at low and high levels.
Yeah.
I've got like, he was only driving while suspended and had a little warrant. And then the next day they're like, I hit big with the same behavior. I'm like, yes. I was like, told you, it's the same behavior at low level and high level. It's our job to find a violation, get them stopped, and then peel back the layer and see where are we at. And if we're at a low level, like something that we can cut them loose with a warning and not worry about the violation and be on our way. But it's something bigger. We're gonna know, and that's when we're gonna step in. And that's our job as cops. Is to basically combat the criminal element and make a healthy fear for criminals of committing violations out there and committing offenses. Because unfortunately, in the places in this country right now where they are not afraid, it is terrifying for citizens to go out and do their job, and cops even more so.
Well, yeah, you lose all that behavior. Like if they're not afraid of you.
If they're not afraid, they're empowered almost in a lot of places, just attacking cops, getting ambushed.
Yeah.
Like I saw this morning, a Chicago officer in uniform was on his way home off duty in his personal vehicle, and a shot spotter went off, and they found him in
Shot spotter?
Shot spotter. So the shot spotters in a lot of cities, a lot of places, they have technology that can hear and amp and basically receive the sound, the amps of a gunshot going off, and it in turn triangulates it down to feet.
Wow.
And tells an agency, hey, you've got shots fired over here. There are in a lot of cities, there are a lot of places where people don't call the police.
Yeah.
And so unfortunately, Chicago PD was responding to that shot spotter, and they found one of their officers still in uniform, murdered in the street with his badge and gun taken off of him, left there for dead.
So they took
they took his car too, and they took his car just laying out there. And so it's just a horrible time in certain places right now. Luckily, where I work in the county that I'm in, there is a healthy fear of committing crime and going to jail and prison, and we have a overall really good support. Basically really good support from the city and from our city council and admin. That's what I like now that I transferred, 6.5 years ago, transferring down to my agency that I'm now in Texas, right, from Jersey, was the best decision ever made. They let me go out and work. They let our guys go out and work. And that's all we really ask, and we get support, from the city especially. They want us going out there.
Brian, pretty supportive of you guys?
Yes.
The city, Brian?
Yes. I've had city councilmen do ride-alongs with us.
Nice.
It was cool, yeah. And I remember the first ride-along I ever did when I was really new at this agency. It was like 5 years ago. And my lieutenant at the time was like, hey, Craig, you're taking the city councilman who's probably going to be the next mayor of the city or the city manager in the car with you. Take him into the stuff. I'm like, show him. I'm like, show him. He goes, yeah, take him into the ghetto. Like, take him into the projects. Like,
wow.
Show him. Like, he needs to know what we're dealing with. And it was awesome. The guy was great. He's super supportive. Unbeknownst to me, he was like taking pictures while we were out there on calls and stuff. And at the end of the night, he wrote a huge positive thing about like what we deal with and having our back. And it was really cool because I know that's not the norm everywhere.
No, I don't think any Austin city council members have gone for write-outs.
Yeah, he looks at me. He's like, yeah, I got an ankle ring on. I'm like, my man.
Yeah.
All right. He goes, it's like, you're going to have my back. If something goes down, he goes, yeah, I got you, man.
Yeah.
It was funny, but we did a lot. That night we got into a lot of stuff, and it's cool. Luckily we still have that that relationship there. So
yeah, that seems like the opposite of what the defunding is going. Like you're getting them out there, showing them, getting support.
Yeah, they increased funding for us when that was all going down and during COVID times and George Floyd and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
Like they made it adamant. They were like, we are increasing their budget.
That's
for
awesome.
training and other things. Yeah, and that's how it's supposed to be. How do you defund something and want it to get better?
You don't.
You can't. It doesn't make sense. Not a good model.
It's chaos that they're wanting.
Yeah.
They're not wanting anything to get better.
Yeah.
So what's the long term? Like, how do you get this into police academy and close that gap?
Yeah, I know. I would love for it to be an academy. I guess some of my reservations on that is, and this is just one thing, right? A lot of agencies, they don't want to teach this class while their officers are still in academy as a day, because they want them to get on their own field training, learn what normal looks like, make traffic stops, and just kind of get a basis for it before I'm teaching them something that's so high speed. Okay. And I understand that.
Sure.
So like for me, like if a guy in academy puts himself through class, cool, we welcome it. But for me, I recommend this to the officer who is off of field training and now on their own, right? Doesn't have a partner in the car with them anymore. And now has had 4 months of being on the street, learning these things, looking at these things. And now I get them. And now they can start the rest of their career.
Right.
And I have so many cops take this class like 2, 3, 4, 5 times as a refresher.
Oh, wow.
Because it is a perishable skill, the mind, seeing the behavior.
So when is the best time? Is it 2 or 3 years in? Is that what you're saying?
I'd say a year in. Yeah.
A year in?
I like guys that are at least off field training, because field training is about 4 months.
Yeah.
So
get a baseline, grow your bandwidth so that you can move beyond the things that you were told to look for and actually start seeing behaviors.
Yes. Yeah. If I was selfish and it was only about money, I would tell them, take it anytime, mandate it in academy, because all those budgets, right? But to set them up for success and really get this stuff built into them, like they need to be off of field training and now on their own, wanting to look out and go for it. And then that's where I like to get them.
Have you thought about writing a book?
Yes.
Nice.
100%.
You working on that?
Yes.
Did I just spill the beans on that?
No, it's still in the early stages. I've been asked to do one for so long.
Yeah.
I want to work with him and write one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be super
I think we can
cool.
do something really cool. Because I have the validation on it with all the footage, all the stories, all the testimonial every day. And I've adapted. I made a hybrid to all the behavior he did in there, which was incredible on the baseline for everything.
Yeah.
And now I've adapted it to the street level. Like, we could spend hours on it, but in my class, I show like all these things that aren't talked about in this book too. Like, I show what the same behaviors in a car look like on a bike, on a scooter, on a skateboard. I teach one of the huge ones. I have a bicycle block of criminals doing really bad things on bicycles, like literally like BMX bikes, street bikes, things of that nature. And I show what those behaviors are when they see a cop car, so that they know when they see that on a bike, that's someone that we want to try to find a bicycle violation on and work further. Because we're not going to stop every bike out there. We're not going to stop every person walking on foot out there, right?
But if his limbic system squeezes
it's
that
going
brake,
to show a lot of things,
flips over the handlebars.
The bike, the biggest one on the bike, besides like going into their shell. Like I literally, like one of the pictures I show is a turtle on a bike, in his shell on a bike, riding a bike, and I'm like, watch this, and I show them, they're like, holy cow, like there it is, right? I see people get off the bike and walking the bike too, and going in their shell. And I'm like, getting off and walking the bike is one of the biggest behaviors we show.
Really?
Oh yeah, getting off and walking the bike. When they see a cop car, they go relax, and then getting off and walking.
And that's strange, because it's not like, you're right. Why are you just pushing a bike?
Yeah.
Why'd you get off the bike?
There's a reason behind it.
Stay on the fucking bike.
So it's a control thing too, to put a position of control. It takes more motor function to ride the bike fluidly and do your thing, and it's harder to change directions in small space.
Yeah.
So they get off the bike and they walk it, and they need to be able to distance from it. And they're putting a lot of times they'll put the bike in between us and them as a barrier. Right. It's a barrier block, right? And so we see a lot of those, and I show it in real time as it happens from my in-car video and then my body camera video during contact. And then we find ourselves with really, really wanted individuals, some serious fights, foot chases that started with a bicycle violation, or started with behavior, and then a bicycle violation following that. And we show the bike stops have grown so much in class. It's got its own hour to it, because so many guys have messaged me footage, and we have so many cops at our place stopping bikes because of what they're seeing in class. Funny. We see pedestrian stops too, the pedestrian ones, scooters, skateboards. Walking the scooter is another one. E-scooters, people getting off and walking an e-scooter. The skateboard, using the skateboard as a shield across their chest. They'll get off the skateboard and use it as a shield across their chest. I can't even imagine how APD was out here doing stuff and like seeing the behavior, and then the people holding a skateboard across the chest, what that would be like. Some of the craziest ones I hear with a skateboard across the chest. That's wild. And I show it and I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh.
And so what do you do with something like that? You can get all the behavior in the world, but how do you get the violation in order to make contact?
You have to be very, very versed in traffic code because there are so many.
You guys have got all the laws.
There's so many violations out there with equipment. City ordinances is a huge one. Like city ordinances are usually a lot more strict than actual violations, but they're still counted as a detention.
Yeah.
If you are very versed in all those things, usually there is some sort of violation that's going to occur before they're out of the window. But if they fall out of the window and we don't have anything, that's the game.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to violate anybody's rights. We're not. We're big on that. That's why it's called the game, because it sucks, right? But that's what protects all of us too.
Yeah.
Even non-criminals.
I think by putting it in that context, it disarms it a little bit and makes it less personal if you were to lose the game.
Yeah.
From that person, like, all right, you got me this time, motherfucker. I'll get you next time.
When you make it personal, you get in trouble.
Right.
And you start crossing that line.
Start making guys shit their pants on their way.
Yeah. If you make it personal, you get yourself in trouble, and it's not personal. And then you start not doing this thing tactically. Mm-hmm. Anytime you get too driven up, right? You don't carry out things as usual.
Sure.
You start letting your personal feelings get in the way. You start making mistakes, getting heated, getting tunnel vision, all those things. And that's where we lose that way. So we got to keep it cool. So
have you dealt with people trying to provoke you for YouTube?
Yes.
What has that been like?
Yeah.
Because that's like one of the big, I was like, I could not be a cop. Like one fucking day I would ruin my whole career because somebody said the wrong thing. And
how
do you manage that?
So I train my guys on how to deal with First Amendment auditors. That's what we call them. First Amendment auditors. Oh yeah, they're out there. If you go on YouTube, they're all over.
I believe it, dude. I believe it. I'm a sovereign citizen. I don't need a driver's license.
Yeah. Well, sovereign citizen is one thing. I'm talking like a First Amendment auditor who they will literally go around with a camera and try to provoke us. And they're following us. They're scanning channels, trying to listen where we are in stops. Mm-hmm. So this is the goals of First Amendment auditor. They want to either be famous, make money, or take a cop's job. Yeah. And I tell the guys that I'm like, don't play into it. Yeah. Right. And usually they know the law pretty well.
Yeah.
They do. Sometimes better than most cops. So I tell my guys, like, it's our job to know our job. Like, you need to know what you can and can't do and what they can do too. Right. And if you do know those things, usually you don't have any issues with those First Amendment auditors. Like, because you just let them do their thing, what they can and can't do. Because most of them know how far they can tread before they cross that line, and they're usually not going to in most cases. So don't let them make money, get famous, or cost you your job.
That's the game.
But knowing your job is huge. Like I put myself through a class like Blue to Gold. We have a really good class that talks about how to deal with First Amendment auditors, sovereign citizens, things like that. And it's really good. It tells you what we can and can't do, and it should be mandatory.
Is there any truth to that sovereign citizen? I'm not committing. No. Interstate commerce. No. I don't I see that guy on Instagram and there's
no truth to that. It will get them arrested every time.
Yeah, they break their window.
Unfortunately, there is literature and websites and different things devoted to it. It's almost like they're brainwashed, or they read it so much that they actually believe it to be truth, and then they try to carry that out and practice it on the street, and it doesn't do any good. And we know what that looks like with a sovereign citizen. Or I'm traveling, I don't need to do this and that. It's not. It never goes. I just don't know why, because it always ends up in them getting arrested or getting warrants because they don't pay things. And
well, if it's more trouble than it's worth, and you're like, whatever, go away.
That's what they hope.
Then
for.
It works, right?
And
then they're absolutely going to do it again.
Yep. And I can't stand seeing that. I watch so many of these YouTube videos and where cops unfortunately haven't had training. Right? And I'll never be like, oh, he's a terrible cop. I'm like, he didn't have training, And so I'm like, man. Sometimes it's so bad where I'll reach out. I'm like, yay, on me, you need to come to class.
Yeah.
I give away training a lot.
Really?
Yes. Yeah. Agencies that I know aren't funding their guys, or they're not making a lot of money. They're really poor, or somebody who's been in some really serious shit. And I'll reach out. I'm like, hey, listen, man, you don't need to tell anybody about it, but I got you, man. Just get there. You need the training. If somebody gets put on blast on a YouTube video or whatever, I'm trying to think, there's Code Blue Cam is
Code Blue.
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Yeah. And
is that a YouTube channel?
Yes. And so I love my Wisconsin cops, not trying to bash you guys, but there unfortunately is not a huge push for good training in that state that I found. I taught there one time and the class was one of my lowest numbers ever.
Really?
And I was like, man, this is, I feel bad. And because on that Code Blue Cam, it's just showing cops who are getting basically game ran down on them by a criminal who knows more than them. And they're letting people move around freely and run game on them and doing things so tactically unsafe, getting belittled, intimidated, and just not knowing their laws or what they can and can't do, putting themselves in really poor tactical situations. And all of those are really just not great videos on that Code Blue cam of what not to do, unfortunately. So, and there's some great cops on there, don't get me wrong, but like, it's just not the norm on that page. That page is like painful sometimes to watch.
It's a real risk. Yeah. I mean, you've got MSNBC and CNN and YouTube all on standby for you to fuck up. Yep. And so when that person confronts you and is like, I have a right to be here and I can do whatever the fuck I want, it's like, maybe you do. I don't like.
And that's where
it makes you doubt.
And that's where we get in trouble, man. You know, like when you know what you can and can't do, or if they can be there, and you say it back to them, and they're like, "Hey, you can film. I have no problem with you being right here and filming." Yeah. Oh, okay, cool. And they're like, "Damn, not this one."
Yeah.
You know, but when you don't know, and you're like, you need to identify yourself right now. Well, why? And I watch these videos and they're like, I'm like, and my wife and I are watching, like, he doesn't have to identify himself. That's going to be bad. It's a lawsuit right here waiting. I'm like, it's our job to know our job. And it goes up to the top too, like supervisors, admin, like you need to be preparing these officers at the line level to keep the city and agency out of frivolous lawsuits, right? Because like they need to be trained on this stuff. It saves you on the back end. Oh, huge. Yeah, these payouts are huge. Whereas if you train them, what they can and can't do, like, you're keeping yourself out of the papers, out of bad lawsuits, things of that nature, right? You're not guys are going to be baited when they know their job.
Yeah. I just read today a story about this female cop that I guess got fired for having a train ran on her from the department, but she won $500,000 yesterday.
Really? I did not hear that.
Yeah.
Wow.
She did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that made national news. You
remember what I'm talking about?
There was memes and all that. It was really bad.
She went famous. And it was a couple years ago. And it just popped up again today. I was like, oh yeah, that girl. Yeah. She did what? She got $500,000
Yeah, the fallout from that. My gosh, they lost a lot of officers over that.
No doubt. There was 6 of them. One of them was wearing a white shirt, looked like maybe a chief.
Yeah, I don't know. Or something. Yeah. Or something. Or higher up.
What a mess. But that was a mess. Again, lawsuits, banking, that the city pays that shit.
Yes, for sure. And that's why we train our guys on what to do, not to do, and try to mentor them on their personal lives too. Wow. Because, those things happen, and that just happened to go public at that one.
Yeah.
It's just, that stuff happens. It's in all different professions.
Sure.
Just being police though, higher standard on blast, so.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Not all professions are funded through tax dollars though.
Yes.
I mean.
Yeah.
There should be a higher standard.
Yes, I agree.
How has this been? Are you family man? You got kids and wife?
Yeah. I've got 3 kids.
Yeah?
Yeah.
How do you juggle this job, the class, the research,
it's a lot. I have a really supportive wife.
Awesome.
If I did not have that, there's no way I'd be able to do it.
For sure.
She loves what I'm doing. She comes from a law enforcement family out of San Antonio and military, all Army. My mother-in-law, she's still active duty military, still deployed. She's a major in the nursing field and does all the non-sterile surgery and all that other stuff. Really cool.
Wow.
Yeah. So she knows what she got into, but she's really supportive. It's tough, because I'm gone a lot.
How do you compartmentalize going to the park and finding a dude throat raping another dude and then go home and put your kid to bed, I do talk to her about it, some of the stuff, Like Does that make
she's hard enough to handle it.
Yeah.
She is. She loves some of the stories. She's like, oh, tell it, like.
My wife was that way when I was deploying. She's like, I was like, do you want to know or do you not want to know? If you know, it might make it worse. Or if you don't know, it might, the imagination can sometimes be worse than the reality,
And now I'm finding that with how many cops, and I've had a lot of people I know got killed. It's changed. She doesn't want to hear about as much of the stuff. That kind of stuff where we're arresting people and no real bad stuff came out of it.
Something funnier.
Yeah, but like when people are getting killed, there's things in the news, or I'm like, one of my good friends, Najee, one of the cops I work with, he got shot. She was like, I don't, because she thinks me getting shot. Because she knows absolutely who I'm going after out there every day. Because I'm a sergeant, but I go out with my guys and still make arrests every single shift. Like we're out there. I was out there last few days, out there on foot with them in bad areas, and I'm not there as much as I would be if I was still on patrol, because obviously I still have to manage reports, time sheets, all those things. But I get out there any chance I get. I'm out there with the guys, and we're running special assignments and fixing problem areas together.
She doesn't want to be notified of how close she might have come.
She doesn't want to know how close
of you getting hurt.
The last few weeks have almost had a couple
that
were close. We're running weapons entanglements with people with handguns, people running from us with guns, really close calls where we probably should have got shot.
Yeah.
Or we watched the same video where the cop got shot and it was just by luck that they fell. Like twice now we've had them fall with the gun where if we got closer, they would have shot, but they happened to fall. Falling saved their own life.
Nice.
Because we were,
ready.
Yeah, but it's a scary time right now, man. I've never seen a level of violence against police and a lack of fear of punishment and dying by criminals. Like it's insane right now. It's a very dangerous adversary would rather die than be arrested.
Why do you think that's happening?
I think it's the climate that we're in right now.
The political climate?
Partially, yeah. I think years ago when it was made by a certain generation a choice to listen to authority and law enforcement.
Yeah.
It became a choice. And everyone started running, stealing. As you see, like in California right now, they don't even care. They just walk right past cops. They go in these stores and they steal. And it's a choice to submit to authority, right? It's a scary time right now. And it's some places it's starting to come back around in full circle because people have had enough. The majority of the country, like the quiet majority, right, are like very supportive.
Yeah.
And they want things back to where they were, where there was a healthy fear of going to jail if you did bad stuff. And
they just want the prices in the stores to come back down and be able to take their kids places and not get harassed.
Yeah, it's scary. In some places, it's so scary. Like places that like 10 years ago, you could walk around and not be fine. Like we don't go to anymore, and you have to think about those things. Yeah, it's a crazy time.
So what do you do to off gas? If your wife's like, listen, I don't need to hear that I almost lost you yesterday. We got 3 fucking kids I gotta raise here. Don't tell me that shit.
Yeah.
How are you off gassing? Do you have that network in the department? Do you have friends? What do you?
No, when I go home, I love being at home. I spend time with my kids. I spend a lot of time outside. I'm a huge hunter. I love hunting. That's my life, man. That's before I was telling them before this, I was professionally filming and bow hunting, shoveling everywhere, man. I'm sure we could have a lot to talk about that.
Hell yeah,
I was shooting for Hoyt.
awesome.
Yeah, I was shooting for Hoyt for years.
No shit.
Yeah, I was filming and producing hunts, traveling. I was working in the outdoor channel, sports channel, doing all that stuff.
Good for you, man.
Yeah, Cryptech was huge. I was with Cryptech for a while, with the camo side of it, from the hunting side. I know they're bigger than the military side, but
and you went law enforcement. You didn't go into that.
I did it both at the same time.
Wow.
We had kids. I was traveling and still doing all the archery trade show, ATA shows, and all that other stuff. And working with a lot of different companies and getting to hunt some really cool places and doing some cool stuff. I was guiding a lot of like turkey and bear and everything. And that's cool, man. It was a whirlwind. It was a gypsy, like that nomadic lifestyle. And then we had kids, and it just, something had to give to be a good dad, a good husband, and still like my full like real job, being a cop. And so
you got to be there.
The hunting had to take a little bit of a back step. And so the trips weren't as long. The elk trips weren't 2 weeks anymore. But I love to hunt. I love to be outside, outdoors, working out. If I can't talk to my wife, I'll call somebody like Jake, Jake Bigelow. He had last week. I call him and talk to him and vent to him because I know he's been through some stuff, man. Yeah. And he's really good to talk to. People that have been in a lot of it, I'll call them, like Anthony, my Louisiana cop. I'll say, don't say where he works, but where he works is kind of a godless place. Yeah. And he's been in a few shootings, and I talk to him to vent on different things. If things get wild, people have been through some stuff. They get it.
That does help.
And I've got good co-sergeants that I vent to too. Yeah. I've got some really good sergeants that I work with in my office, and they're really supportive, really good. So it's good. I've got support. I got a network. We have a peer support system at my PD if it ever gets really bad. Okay. We have a bunch of people that are peer support. Yeah, like if it gets really bad, we don't ask. We just send them over to, like, if a guy gets in a shooting, getting something really bad, or gets really like tuned up, like we'll or sees something really bad. That's where we kick that in. We have support for them. For sure. Because there's some really bad stuff out there.
So there is.
Yeah. So
awesome, man. Yeah. We're wrapping up here. Anything else you want to talk about? Stories to tell? Any other details?
Yeah. I guess one story that it hadn't come up yet, but and it back to family. Probably one of the only times I've ever seen like Julia like questioning if like she wanted me to do this anymore, or like my kids like having a horrifying moment. And it really made me angry that to the suspect. This is the only time I was ever like, man. I had a really bad altercation in 2020 on a traffic stop that I backed another officer, and unfortunately that officer didn't see a lot of all these behaviors that I'm teaching here. And then I get there well into the stop, and like 30 minutes into the stop, and we're getting ready to wrap up the stop and cut everybody loose, because I came there secondary. And as a secondary officer, we assumed that the primary officer who had stopped the car had already ID'd everybody, had found out if they were wanted or not wanted or who they said they were, and if they weren't going to arrest them, or they we're going to cut everybody loose. So I start talking to this one dude on scene, and he's not showing a ton of behavior because he's relaxed and calm, right? Not unbeknownst to me. The reason he was calm again is because he got by my partner 5 minutes ago with a bad name and date of birth and was lying. He was a major, one of the worst wanted fugitives out there, and he got by with that name, and my primary officer
thought he was good to go. Yeah,
he thought he was good to go. So like, no behavior, right?
He's about to win the game.
He's like, good. Yeah, he's playing the game. Cool. So at the very end of the stop, I literally had a notepad out, and all I was doing was literally writing this dude's information down to put it in my report. I wasn't going to run him again. I wasn't going to do anything. And as I'm writing the dude's name down, I start to see him start to pacify and go into his shell, and he's literally like transforming, just getting so ill and sick and freaking out, going nuts. And he said his name, and then he corrected with a totally different name, and he started panicking and going into his shell. I'm like, holy shit. I'm like,
fucked up, didn't you?
I'm like, oh man. And he's big dude, white earring brotherhood, white supremacy tats all over him.
Shit.
Really bad dude.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is gonna be a problem.
Yeah.
Right. And so so I made some mistakes on this too. I knew the behavior, but like, this is where the street survival comes into it. And we learn from these mistakes that don't kill us or make us out of a job.
Yeah.
So I'm standing there, and I look at my partner over there, and we're 2-on-2 right now at this point. And we should have had more units there. But like I said, I'm backing up. We as officers are so guilty of not wanting to step on toes, not wanting to take over the stop, that we don't get backup when we should probably ask for backup as a secondary. When we see these things, we need to address it, right? And that's what I tell guys now. Like, if you see something, say something, do something. Who cares? If you hurt his feelings, you're going to at least be alive, right? Yeah. So like, I wish I had got a third there. It's when I knew, I know. And he was a big dude too. And he was a lot older than me. He had like 15 years of time on me. He was like a very veteran guy. And I was like, oh man, I should have had another backup unit there. But I was like, okay. I'm like, hey man. And so my partner, I'm like, hey partner, like, did you ID him? Because I see him starting to freak out, right? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, did he hand you an ID? Oh no, verbally. And I'm like, and I look at the guy, and he's like frozen now. I'm like, oh.
It's like,
and I'm like,
shit.
oh, yeah. But he's like, yeah, but his DL returned. Like, so basically,
he gave a real name.
He gave a real name of somebody, and dispatcher was like, yeah, he's not wanted, clear, all that.
Yeah.
My partner never looked on the computer screen to make sure the face matched.
Right.
So I walk over and I look at the screen, and I'm like, away from the scoot, I'm like, that is not anything remotely close to what we have here. And I'm like, oh, this is a wanted person, right? And you never know how bad someone's wanted, right? And I've been smoking a joke with this guy for like 10 minutes. I'm thinking I have a rapport with the guy, right? And it's like,
do you try to keep it low and like, hey man, just step out so we can talk for 100%, 100%
perception, field craft, and pressure management.
Yeah.
It keeps us alive, keeps them alive. We don't want them to panic. We don't press them. We never press them on bad shit while they're in that car in a position of control. We want to disconnect them from that. It keeps us from dying, from them fleeing the vehicle. We disconnect them from the vehicle, the position of control, out of their comfort zone. We have to do that. I tell guys, you will never say that you see or smell something illegal while they're sitting in that car unless you want to die or have them flee. And then I show over and over again when they didn't do that, how it happened. And learning has occurred usually after that.
Yeah.
So I look at the screen, it's not the dude, and I'm like, to my partner, I'm like, I give him a look. I'm like, yeah, like, I'm going to go over and, in hindsight, I wish I had just put him in handcuffs under the bad name. And I teach my guys that now.
Oh,
I've looked at data at RPD, and I've had officers really switched on arrest somebody who came back with a warrant only to get to the jail, fingerprint them, and find out they weren't that person that was wanted, but they were another really bad wanted person with violence across the board against officers, but they didn't fight when they got put under the name of not the right person. When we've called them out on who they actually are, like, hey, you're lying about who you are, like they twist off like crazy. And I found that out the hard way here. Yeah. This is not that long ago, but in 2020, this is one of the few things that have changed in my class because of what happened to me here.
Okay.
I screwed up. So I was like, okay, man. Like, I walk up to him, Ron sneaks behind him, and thank God for this. Ron actually saw he had a lanyard on his neck, this guy, and he had a razor blade, a retractable razor blade on a one of those lanyards for like a card or whatever. And Ron, thank God, saw that and took that off of him just before I'm starting to talk to him. And I think it ultimately saved our life if you hear how this one's going to go. But so he takes it off. He's like, oh, I can't have that. And Ron's like, nah. My partner's like, nah. Right. So I go to him like, hey, listen, man, like, clean slate. And we're like this close, like when you're to that planet, right? Clean slate. What's your real name and date of birth? And 99% of the time, people are like, okay, you got me. It's this, or they put their hands on their back. For this percent of people is why I tell guys, don't call them out on this, right? Put them in handcuffs under the bad name, get another unit there. I learned the hard way when he takes a deep, he starts nasal flaring and doing all this shit, like all of pre-flight. And we show this in class, and he looks at me and he goes, boom, and he tries to sprint, right? luckily for me, he's real big, fast dude, like the prison fighter, like you don't want to deal with, right? Like that, like 6'3", 190, ripped up, white dude covered in tattoos, like the one that's like an MMA looking build.
Yep.
Like, oh, crap. So luckily he's got a huge infection on his foot. So he was barefoot at this time, like, cause it was so painful. I couldn't like fit in his shoes. He's barefoot down the street, like in the car, he'd been barefoot.
He ain't running far.
Yeah. So he tries to run and I tackle him and spear him into the bumper of a car. Unbeknownst to me, this dude had just eaten a bunch of heroin and meth, like prior to the stop, like to try and ingest it. And so he's getting like higher and more strong as the stop's going on. And so he takes off and I tackle him and we
heroin and meth.
Yes.
So an upper and a down.
Yeah.
What the fuck happens
like
when you do both of those?
bad. Like super strength.
Falls asleep, wakes up.
Not just the pain, just like amped up, but like pain tolerant.
Wow.
Wild. Yeah. Not a good combo.
Wow.
And, so I tackle him and my partner and I, we're both like at this time, we're probably like 6 foot, 250 plus gear on each of us, about that size. And we grab this dude and I hit him and it's like hitting a rock. And I think it's because my partner had been grabbing on the dude at the same time. So I'm trying to tackle and take down like 2 big people. So I end up like hip rolling him to the ground and I put him down in the pavement and he's fighting and not listening and it's getting ugly and we're starting to get torn up by the pavement and it's getting really bad. And, I put the dude in a Kimura armbar and so I'm on my side and I'm like trying to like kind of I guess face plant this dude to the pavement with a Kimura armbar, but I made the mistake of not locking the legs in so that I was free to move. And this dude felt that and he flipped me really hard and my legs go in there and I face planted into the pavement and I broke my nose. The front half of my face was hanging down. I was black. I couldn't see anything. I was like blind, like hanging on. Like I was like, I got rocked so bad. All I knew was just hold on, survive, right? Just hold on. This is really bad. This is bad. I hit hard. Dude, stars, black, dude. I couldn't see it. I'm just holding on. I'm like, holy shit, right? And it didn't click at that time because the dude didn't have a weapon, he didn't have a gun, so I wasn't clicking thinking, okay, yeah, serious bodily injury, I'm just going to shoot him now, right? Which the DAs, I would have been justified in this situation because I have serious bodily injury, things are getting really bad. So we start going up, we start to go up that use of force ladder. So I'm holding on for dear life. A few seconds later, I come out of it, I see it's like black runs. My partner's still fighting the shit out of this dude. I pull out my taser, I'm like half out, I'm like, holy shit, right? So I go to tase the dude and I tase him and it works initially. And he's crumping into it. And then as soon as it's over, climbs up the wires at me, like just demonic, just screaming, grabbing. He grabs onto my teacher, tries to rip it out of my hand, right? So I drop back. My partner tackles the dude into a bumper on the ground, right? Trying to just keep him down, trying to buy time. What I didn't say was when I first tackled this dude, now 3 minutes prior, my radio died.
Oh, shit.
No backups coming. No backups coming. And this is a big thing I talk in class about securing your lifelines, like both your lapel, your radio, like it had turned off. And so now I advocate for really good radio holders that can hold onto the radio. So no backups coming, right? Finally, because they didn't hear us, dispatch starts, sending people our way and stuff. And we're getting exhausted. We're all just so beat up. Ron's got a broken rib from this dude now. I've got broken nose, the front half of my face hanging off. And we show all this in class. It's really just really violent and brutal. So I run up. And Ron's got this dude against the bumper of the car. The dude's on his knees and he's trying to get up. And I'm like, I can't let this dude get up again. Because he's not trying to run away anymore. He's trying to disarm us and use our guns again. I'm like, we're going to get shot. This dude's so high. He's like superhuman strength, like drugs, and someone who's got pen time. He's got numerous trips to the pen.
He ain't scared of shit.
Yeah. So my thought is this. I'm like, nothing's working. We're in trouble here. And so my instincts, you never know what you're going to do in that moment when you're just all jacked up and things are messed. So like I ran up at full speed and I knee struck him in the face. And a normal person, like even for me, like you or me, like that, we're going down, right?
Yeah.
This dude just eating him. I did it 10 times.
Wow.
And his with the back part being a bumper of a car, and it's just drilling him, and he's just eating him. He's so high. Finally, like 4 or 5 knee strikes in, right? He starts breaking down. He's starting to go down, and then he comes up again, like out of the den. I'm like, oh my god, right? And so I'm knee striking him again. And I mean, I had broken his orbital, right?
Wow.
That's how hard I was hitting this dude. It broke it and it's getting concussions and hematomas everywhere. And like, nothing's working, right? And so finally backup shows up. Me and Ron are just destroyed. And this dude's like pretty much out of it too. But he's like crumpled into himself. And we look and the first person to show up was a school resource officer who had just happened to be covering shift that day. And he was out of shape and he shows up. He's like, oh. I'm like, get in here, dude. I'm like, oh my God, dude. You never know who your back is.
Sit on him.
Like, get in here now, dude. Yeah. And finally, it took us like 6 people. We finally piled on and put him in shackles and everything because he was so bad. And I roll out of it and you see it, and you'll see in class, but like all the blood and how bad it is. And I'm like, I need to go to a hospital.
Yeah.
Because head trauma, you just never know. Like delayed bleeds and stuff. People don't know. They can't slough it off. So I remember being in the hospital watching the video footage back, and I was talking to my sergeant. My sergeant had my back. He came there. He got me to the hospital. We went code there, you know, and everyone else still dealing with this problem, dude. And I remember saying to my sergeant, even with the behavior, I'm like, the behavior, I'm like, he was wanted. I knew he was wanted. I was like, I don't know how bad he's wanted, Sarge, but I'm like, I need to go to the hospital though. I'm like, but I don't know how bad he's wanted, man. That dude's wanted. I didn't know who he was yet even.
Yeah.
And I get to the hospital and they're doing all these tests and everything. And they're like making, you know, all these blood samples and stuff to make sure that I don't get like, you know, AIDS from this dude. Cause it was bad, dude. And, people come to check on me and shit there. And, then my other sergeant comes in. He's like, he was really wanted, dude. You got a really bad dude off the street. He was wanted for ag assault, public servant, evading the vehicle. He was wanted fugitive on the run for months. He wasn't even from our area. He was drifting through. He'd already beaten guys with the same name game weeks prior that are pretty switched on. That's when I was like, oh, thank God it was me. Because these other officers were maybe got killed. They were smaller, younger. But in class, we show that and we show how I got him with the name game and something that I asked them that they trip on. And I don't want to say it here on the air, but there's something that I asked them and that is one of the most indicative things of a one person. And when you ask it and that they don't know that or they can't answer that question, it's extremely telling. Nice. And so that's something we talk about in class. And we show it over and over and over again. And I own my mistakes. You know, there's mistakes I made on that and tactically and working through them and I show them and I own them on that because I don't want guys to have to go through the same thing. So I remember getting home to my house later that day when I finally got out of the hospital and I walked up to my front door and my son, who was 2 at the time, was waiting for me at the glass door and I got out of the car and I walked up and I didn't know how bad I was. It was really bad. I didn't look like the same person.
You're like bandaged up?
Oh, no. They left it open, exposed, drying as glue and everything.
Wow.
And I looked like a freak and my son cried and ran. And that's when I was like, I was so angry, dude. I was like, man, I wish I'd done certain things different and I would have been good on to do to that dude. And you know, that's the only time I ever was like, oh man, I wish I'd killed him. Yeah. And I was good to do that. But, you know, we control the violence, that anger. Sure. And that's part of our job, you know?
Just because you can.
You got to rear it in. Exactly. 100%. Sure. And you rear it in. And that dude got sentenced to prison. He'll be in prison for a very long time.
Yeah.
And even at the hospital, he lied about who he was and racked up over $1 million worth of hospital bills to his brother, who he actually ID'd as too. He was IDing as his brother. Siblings, we see it all the time. Siblings.
Yeah.
Yes, the most common person they lie about who they are is as a sibling because they've memorized that. Yeah. But there's certain things they don't memorize. That's what I talk about in class that they don't, and that's what tells us.
My wife's sister did that when they were in school. She ended up getting a ticket and having to go to defensive driving for her little sister who stole her license and went to town.
It's ride or die right there to go through it all, though.
Thanks, sister.
Yeah, it's crazy, man.
That's
but
funny.
Yeah, you just never know. Like, if you told me that was going to be like what happened on that as a backup officer on a stop, you know, I would have been like, yeah, there's no way. Like, if it's going to go down, it's going to be me stopping my own car, figuring it out. But like, you just never know. When you least expect it, it happens. But like, so like that dude had all those felony warrants. The car was used and the female driver in that vehicle were used in a rash of car burglaries in the neighboring jurisdiction all night, smash and grabs, a ton of meth in the car. They had a lot going on. But yeah, we break that one down in class and show what it looks like because it looks like so many other stops too. Yeah. They all look so similar, but there's a lot of different levels of crime.
Yeah.
But yeah, that slowed me up a step. Yeah, because you can tell there's so many people that are in law enforcement, military, things of that nature. No, and just to be honest, like that until something like that happens, they're all like, yeah, I want to get into it. I want to go get hands on all that stuff. I'm like, yo, until you've met a really bad dude or get into some really bad stuff, like it'll humble you and slow you down. And then you start being a little smarter and more seasoned. And it did that for me. If any good came out of it, it made me think a lot better and more methodically and invest in training more. So
yeah, young men dream of old men's nightmares.
Yes. I love that. I've never heard that, but I love that. Yeah, that is so true.
I had those
We've
dreams.
all been there. Yes, we've all been.
And now I want another part of them.
Yeah.
Like it's how do you communicate to a 20-year-old that what he's chasing, that fantasy, that opportunity to prove himself and come out on top.
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. Like you age out of the desire or you scratch the itch just enough to live through it and be grateful.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. Because I got friends still chasing the war, man. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Me too.
Don't die for that,
We're mostly military at my age.
Yeah.
So yeah, I see it all the time.
Yeah. And I don't know if it's the combat that they're chasing, if it's the brotherhood that they feel like they're a part of something, that they don't even care where it is. They just want to be on a team. They want to have a mission. They want to have, if it's that, maybe it's all of it. I don't know.
I think it's a lot. I think it's all of it, but I think the huge part is that brotherhood.
Yeah.
And we inherently, not to, obviously toxic masculinity always said, but like we as men, like we chase something, like seeking out something. We have a desire for something, like whether we're going hunting or we're seeking out, like, we're
there's a hunger for hardship.
Hunger for something. Yes.
Yeah. There's a hunger for hardship.
There's a hunger for hardship, and the brotherhood is huge too.
Challenge me.
Yeah.
Let me see what I can do. Yeah. I've done a lot of dumb shit just to see if I could do it.
Yeah, but you can tell the younger generation that, right? You don't want this, right?
Yeah.
But they have to find out on their own the hard way, a lot of them. Because I see it, I'm like, I tell them, just remember, it's cool chasing somebody, going after somebody until they take the fight back to you and it's not what you wanted.
Yeah.
Trust me, it'll slow you up. And they look at me like, kind of like, oh yeah. I'm like, you trust me.
Yeah.
Like,
when they got more guns than you do and it's you dodging their bullets, it ain't fun.
Or some animal in backup's not around the corner and you're about to go hands on and you know that they are superior to you. How are you going to work through? How are you going to survive? It's tough. And a lot of times they have to find out on their own, sadly. So.
And maybe it's part of what keeps us going. Like we're not like, it's a problem our species isn't supposed to fix, right? Like my teenage boy is supposed to think I'm a dumbass so that he will go and find his own way. And I thought my dad was a dumbass too.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I fucked up enough to be like, oh shit, maybe dad kind of knew what he was saying.
Yeah, that's evolution and growth.
Right. But maybe it's part of our just who we are as a species, it's ingrained in there and they've got to go through their own shit before they can see the wisdom behind it.
100%.
You just hope they live through it.
Yes. That's all you can do.
Yeah.
You try to, you hope and pray to God that the experiences are something you can actually survive and live through.
Absolutely.
And that's, a big part of class. I don't want cops dying because of what they didn't see or didn't know. And I don't want criminals getting away and slipping through the cracks because of what they weren't trained on how to apprehend them and keep them out of society and plaguing others, so.
Absolutely. Well, tell the listeners, like, where can they take this class? How they get a hold of you? Sure. What's all your stuff? Yeah.
So, the class I teach is Mastering Proactive Policing for Patrol. It's for sworn officers.
Are you saying proactive policing?
Proactive.
Mastering proactive policing.
Yeah, mastering proactive policing for patrol.
Nice.
It is basically it's through Blue to Gold is the main company. And you can there's an online version of this. It's available worldwide, just as long as you're, sworn. And then there's an in-person version of class. So if you buy the on-demand version, you get a voucher to attend in-person free. Because I want you getting a lot of reps, really.
Sure.
And so we do that. And that's on the bluetogold.com website. There's a lot of other training there, a ton of other training and other great classes. I'm just one of many instructors with the company. And it's been great. I have social media. I've got my Instagram handle that is for sworn only. And I have to vet it because I do share a lot of really good training on there as well. So guys that send in their LEO ID to prove it, will get approved a lot faster than the ones that I have to hunt down. Cause I literally say it in the title there and I have to it takes months to hunt them down. But yeah, it's cool. For this year, only in the United States. Next year, we'll be branching out a lot. We're definitely doing some stuff in Canada. I want to do Australia class, UK. We want to hit all these different places because it's working there too. And there's definitely a need. A lot of those places are really behind us in the US for law enforcement, from what I'm being told.
Yeah.
And so, that's where it's at. My next class, I'll be in Kearney, Nebraska, on May 6th. Then at the end of May, I'll be in Dallas-Fort Worth area. June, San Diego, California. July, Peoria, Arizona. August, Boylston, Massachusetts. September, I'll be in Ohio. October, War Acres, Oklahoma. I'll be doing New Braunfels. I'll be in New Braunfels this year. I'll be in Angleton, Texas. I'll be in Jersey Village, but it's Houston. Then in December, I'm in Eddystone. I think it's by Philly and PA.
Got the year filled out.
Yeah, it's awesome, stacked, man. But they love it, and I get hammered for guys to come out there. And the in-person class it's different. It hits different for guys. Plus, we're changing footage out all the time. But yeah, I love it, and I appreciate you having me on here, man. It was a blast.
Too.
I know we talked for a while. I know I can talk a lot and very fast. So I'm sorry for those of you who had trouble keeping up, but it's a mile a minute. I guess the Jersey.
All good, man.
Yeah.
It's all good.
I had a blast, though.
No doubt in my mind you're making a difference and you're saving people's lives. And I hope people will look into this class. And if not the class, this book as well, what everybody is saying, Joe Navarro, where it started with him. I've read this too. Excellent book. Very intuitive, and it's kind of fun just to watch people and hypothesize about their body language.
What's causing that? What is causing that behavior?
Yeah, down to your family line too. You're like, I saw that.
Something's not right.
Yeah. Fucking love it, man. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. I appreciate it, man. Great thank you very much.
Awesome. Stay zero.